Ladies and gentlemen, let's go. Let's go. We ain't got no time to waste. Let's go. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
You know, last week we went around and asked what we wanted to see in the game, preseason game number 1, and I found out this week that we didn't ask Beards what he wanted to see.
Was he upset about that?
Nor did I even know he had an answer until a couple of days ago. We were having a conversation, and Beards was like, well, this is something I had on what I wanted to see last Friday, which you didn't ask me about, but that's okay. No, not a big deal. But had you asked me about it, this is one of the things I would have wanted to see in the game, and we can talk about it now 5 days later. So we will go. Beard, should we start with you?
I actually don't have anything this week.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I'm at a Thursday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Beards. We head up until 2 o'clock the next 4 hours. We're talking some Chiefs football, some other stuff to get into as well. We got sports or leisure later on in the show in the 1 o'clock hour. Matt Lane, KC Sports Network, KC Laboratory Podcast. An hour from now, we'll talk with him at 11 o'clock about the Chiefs, his thoughts on where this team is through 7 games at the bye week. It's not the midway point, but it is as close as you can get to take a step back in the season and look at how they've played, how we thought they would be playing, and where they are. Better, worse, right around where you thought they would be, sort of the same. We'll talk with Matt Lane about that, some of the things that he wrote at KC Sports Network as well, including the different usages of the blitz by Steve Spagnuolo when they're blitzing with cover 0, the downs and distances. They were doing that against the Buffalo Bills. And then the most recent article that he has on the emergence of Juju Smith-Schuster in this offense, what it means, what he's doing, and how it's helped and benefited the offense and Patrick Mahomes. So we'll talk with him about those things. And, of course, we have yet this week to talk about the running game, the running backs, Pacheco, Edwards-Helaire, Jet, Ronald Jones, etc. But I want to do that with Matt Lane coming up in the 11 o'clock hour because one of his tweets, I believe, was change of pace Edwards-Helaire over starting Edwards-Helaire.
Yes.
So I want to talk to him about that. And I think that's a very common held opinion that I am also on board with as of this last week, that I wasn't on board with for the first 5-6 weeks of the season and preseason and things like that I just hadn't seen it. I'm seeing it more from Pacheco. So I am perfectly fine if Pacheco's the starter and gets 55% of the reps.
And 3 carries.
55. Let's just say this. 55% of the touches. Edwards-Helaire gets 35% of the touches. No. 30%. 55, 30, 15. How about that? To Jet.
You know, Jason.
You know what? No. 45, 30 and 30. 30 and 25. 45, 30, 25. Damn it.
If there's anything that people know me for, it's for my great NASCAR analogies. And being the Chiefs starting running back is sort of like being the pole position in a restrictor plate race. You're at the pole position at Talladega. What good does that do you? Because all of a sudden you run into the big one. Now Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Jerick McKinnon get more touches than you do. There's my first ever NASCAR analogy. I hope it made sense to the racing fans.
It does feel like Clyde Edwards-Helaire runs right into the big ones in front of him.
It does. It also feels like he runs with a restrictor plate on.
Does he run with a restrictor?
His top speed is artificially held down.
And Pacheco is the, you know, Pacheco is the.
I've got McKinnon's whenever you're ready.
Right, I'm trying to think of what he would be.
Totally. So Clyde's got a restrictor plate. Jerick McKinnon.
Cole Trickle.
Ooh.
Pacheco is Cole Trickle from Days of Thunder that is just in your face and brash and all over the place and is going full speed no matter what, wide open racing constantly. That's Pacheco. He's Cole Trickle.
Jerick McKinnon is actually an F1 car because he's a little smaller, a little faster, but if he gets into a wreck, it's an even worse deal. So you gotta limit how often you can't be putting him out there on some gravel, like he's a finely tuned machine.
So coming up at noon, we'll talk to the racing boys about the running backs, who they are.
About running backs, specifically.
And which drivers match up the best with the running backs. The racing boys, we'll talk with them. Text says, Pacheco was speeding off pit row.
Ooh.
I think he was. I think Pacheco's initial running style was right after they say, you've got 4 tars and gas or fuel. You got 4 tars and fuel, and he just spins the wheels, burns the rubber. Yep. They just put new, fresh ones on, yes. And he's speeding through pit row. That was Pacheco. Now I think there's maybe still a little bit of the burning of the tires, but not as much, not as fast in speeding. It'll get better. He'll go the speed limit eventually.
He got out of pit. And immediately Andy Reid was like, and full red flag, actually. I don't know. It's just red flag. Everybody stop where you are.
Yes.
We are going to make some changes.
Tech says he's Lightning McQueen. I like that one. I do like that one.
Now we're speaking my language.
Yep, now we're speaking my language, too.
Hey, there's our Pixar overlap. We found
That's exactly right. That my son loves Cars. The movie.
I never saw the third one. The third one was like a gritty, threequel, right?
I've only seen the first one.
The third one.
The second one's not great.
Is much better than the second one.
Okay, that's what I heard.
The second one was trash.
Yeah, not great.
The second one was trash. The whole let's turn him into a spy, and it's like 00 Lightning, and
very weird.
It was just an odd concept. The third one, you get back in.
Talking cars wasn't an odd concept in the first movie.
Look, I'll suspend reality for talking cars. I will not suspend reality to race cars then turning into CIA agents.
Exactly.
I will not do that. There's only a limit to my reality suspension that's there.
Car doctors are okay.
Yeah, nothing wrong with car doctors.
I liked the third one.
Okay, cool.
The introducing Cruz, and so the sort of changing of the guard to see that the universe could still exist in Cars, even though Lightning has aged out.
Yeah, so it's it's retirement Lightning.
It's getting towards that to where the new age. Racers, different body style versus the old school.
He's having some issues at home.
That's right.
With what's her name?
Jackson Storm is the new cool guy, and all of a sudden, in Cars 1, Lightning was the cool new guy on the scene that was making fun of all the old racers. Now Jackson Storm is the new guy on the scene making fun of Lightning as the old guy.
Well, sorry, Jackson Storm, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Incredible.
No, it's Cars, not Incredibles. It's a different movie.
Incredible 2.
That's right.
Which is also pretty good, by the way.
Was good.
That's a good sequel.
Here's the thing. Cars 3 is worth watching.
Okay.
If you liked Cars 1, don't bother with Cars 2. Move right on to Cars 3.
It's
There's
the
nothing,
Godfather 3 of the Cars franchise.
Flip them up. Flip them. Flip them. And it is the Godfather. Most people do say that Cars is the Godfather of Pixar.
Hey, what are
Crack yourself up there, Josh?
No, this was the joke I hadn't said yet, which was what are your Mount Rushmore movies? Oh man, great question. Godfather 1, Godfather 2, Cars 1, and Cars 3, I think.
Texas story in the original Cars movie is fantastic. Second movie focused more on Tow Mater. It was just so off the wall. It wasn't good.
I think that's a good take. Good take, Texter.
I think what they did was they tried to capitalize on everybody loving Larry the Cable Guy and Mater, and they said, how can we get more of him? And it was like an overexposure.
Yep, absolutely. You don't want to have the Mike Wazowski movie either. The Pixar's biggest strength might be in their secondary characters. Buzz Lightning. Good Lord, Buzz Lightyear is cool as the foil. Pixar's got great foil sort of secondary characters, and Tow Mater doesn't need to be the Tow Mater movie.
I'm waiting for the universe crossover when Buzz Lightyear does drive the Lightning McQueen.
I can't wait. Is that not in the new movie?
I wish it was.
That's just called Lightyear.
True.
I'd like for him to just hop. He's a real human being, of course, so it would be weird for him to then get into a talking car. But we'll figure it out.
Text says, hey, CEH, I want you to hit the pace car. You can't hit the hole. You might as well hit the pace car. Hit the pace car. What do you mean hit the pace car? You've hit everything else out there. I want you to be perfect. Robert Duvall. Love it. Text says Cars 3 doesn't even acknowledge anything that happened in Cars 2.
Wow.
That's true. That is absolutely true. It just
Okay.
moves on like it doesn't exist. That is totally true. All right, so let's move on from this conversation. We will talk some running backs and NASCAR with Matt Lane
Zoom, zoom.
coming up at 11 o'clock. So compare running backs to NASCAR drivers format. That's done.
Yep.
We move on.
I did actually write down as we went here running backs in NASCAR. So remember for the podcasting, but I will also write Cars breakdown parentheses the movie.
That's right. Isaiah Pacheco is Cole Trickle and Lightning McQueen. How Isaiah Pacheco turned into Cole Trickle
There it is.
in the zone.
So he's got to turn right to go left.
That's exactly right.
Yes, absolutely.
It's like one of my favorite jokes is, well, you know why Matthew McConaughey didn't make it as a NASCAR driver.
It's about he's got to go all left, all left, all left.
Because he only goes, all right, all right, all right. Text says, all 7.2 million Jacksons that are age 10 think Cars 3 is the best.
Yeah, you have to. Of course. That's a perfect sample size. Also, do you know what I just realized?
What'd you realize?
Jamal Charles is Doc Hudson.
Wow, could have been one of the greatest until the injury.
Was one of the greatest.
Yeah, that's true. But could
Until
have been like the great, one of the
all-time.
greatest all-time greatest.
In the wreck.
Yeah, that's right.
Sometimes you say you blew out a tire. In this case, it would be more literal than that.
Well, I mean, it was figurative when it comes to running backs.
Right, exactly.
That's true. The Jackson thing is really interesting. As a quick aside, and then we'll get into the Robert Quinn trade yesterday. Because a family name on my wife's side is Jackson. Her middle name's Jacqueline. Dad's name is Jackie. Jack Jackson was going to be involved in some way, shape, or form with one of our children. First one.
Did you consider Jack Jackson?
We thought about it.
Okay.
But then we were thinking Jackie Jackieson.
Ooh, excellent.
But we decided against that as well. So we were just going to name him Jackson. Mahomes, Anderson was the way we were going to. Yeah. But no, we were going to name him Jackson, but we were like, every kid's going to be named Jackson. He's going to be in school, and there's going to be like 4 Jacksons in his class.
It's going to be how you spell it. CKXXX.
But it's not going to matter because they're going to go, hey, Jackson, and everybody's
Exactly.
going to turn around. So we're like, you know what? Let's think of maybe Jackson as a middle name. Plus, to tie it together as a callback, I was totally in favor of Jackson with Bo. I like to tell people his middle name is Jackson because of Bo. She says it's a family name. It is a family name, but I was completely on board when she said Jackson's going to be a part of the name, and I said, hell yes, that's going to be a part of the name.
My family claims that my brother and I are Joshua and Caleb, which is a very biblical duo.
Yeah.
But also, my dad's a big U2 fan and had a Joshua Tree poster in our house for a very long time, and so I've long suspected a similar circumstance.
There you go. So we wanted to go different, and so we both agreed that we really liked the name Everett.
Yeah.
He gets to school, and there's 2 Everetts in his class. No Jacksons. No Jacksons, and he's one of 3 Everetts.
Oh,
Are
man.
you bleeping me?
All right,
Come on.
EJ's not bad. EJ's an
That's
okay.
what my family calls him.
Is it really? I kind of like
son.
EJ.
And when he's got he has a basketball teammate named Everett, and so I call him EJ when we play basketball.
That's a good. EJ Anderson sounds like he's getting a
Absolutely right.
scholarship.
No doubt. Well, hopefully. I mean, I don't care what it is. Long
Sports.
snapper.
So yeah, sports scholarship. Everett
a
Anderson
scholarship.
sounds like he's going to get a scholarship, probably
Yeah.
on the academic side.
That's right.
EJ Anderson's hooping. That's a hooper.
Right. And so we combine them so that he's also an academic All-American.
See, this is the path you have him set on. No pressure, kid.
I love the texts that are coming in saying, yeah, it ended up being Jack Holton. Text says, where does Mitch fit in this?
Oh man.
Text says, my father is Jack, so my son is one of the 7.2 million. Yeah, that was the text talking about son's Jackson. All right, so we didn't
I had
name
no
our
idea there was
son
such a Jackson. Opening
Robert or Quinn.
there. No, that's good. 2 first names though, always a crowd pleaser.
He is not nicknamed Bear, nor is he a fan of Eagles.
You did it, man. You brought us back.
But that is what happened yesterday. And color me surprised when I go to Twitter at 4:30, 5 o'clock. I was reading the book by Jeff Pearlman. I don't know if anybody heard about it, but it's about Bo Jackson. So I was reading that when I got home, a little spare time before the kids got there. So I get on Twitter at like 4:30, 5 o'clock, something like that. And the first tweet I see is Adam Schefter saying, "Here are the details of the Robert Quinn trade." And I went, what? The what? And so then I just clicked on Adam Schefter's Twitter because why scroll to try to find it when
Too much. Right there.
his tweet right before that was the Bears are trading Robert Quinn to the Eagles. And I thought, oh, fly, Eagles, fly. So I was disappointed and relieved at the same time. Disappointed in that the Chiefs did not trade for him. Relieved in that a team in the AFC that they would be going up against also did not trade for him. Because if there's one thing the AFC could use is more pass rushers. Every of your pass rushers, give us your tired, your meek, yearning to be free pass rushers here in the AFC. So that comes down yesterday. Again, disappointed and relieved. 4th round pick for Robert Quinn. He's going to cost $700,000 this year for the Eagles. There is no dead money if they move on from him. They could cut him and say this is a rental player for a 4th rounder. Like the Chiefs with Melvin Ingram, even though that wasn't a you can keep him for this amount next couple of years or you can cut him, it was a rental player for a 6th rounder, right? So maybe that's where the 4th rounder comes in, is that, hey, you do have 2 years of team control with Robert Quinn, as opposed to Melvin Ingram was a 6th rounder, and there might have been some relationship friction that also led to, we'll take a 6th rounder for Melvin Ingram at this time. So he cost $700,000 for the Eagles, does Robert Quinn. Next year, $14 million. Year after that, $14 million in his contract. That's base salary. But again, $0 of dead money if the Eagles want to move on from Robert Quinn. If he just isn't the same guy that they thought they were trading for. If the 18.5 sacks was his swan song. If that was the, hey, I'm still here, and then the next year is, oh, I'm not here anymore.
No, I'm not. Yep.
I hit the cliff pretty quickly, and it happens. So they make the deal for the 4th rounder. I looked back last year at the time when the Chiefs made the deal for Melvin Ingram. And they gave up the 6th rounder. It cost them $600,000. That was the cap hit last year for Melvin Ingram was $600,000. So almost identical to what Robert Quinn's going to cost, $700,000. So it's $100,000 more against the cap, and it's a 4th rounder instead of a 6th rounder for Robert Quinn as opposed to Melvin Ingram. But looking at what Robert Quinn is versus Melvin Ingram, PFF grades, grain of salt, all of that stuff. So I would ask you, tell me what these grades are, but you may have already seen them. Tell me which player is this grade, which player is that grade.
Cool.
Have you seen the grades?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Okay, so
I'm guessing one of them's Robert Quinn.
Robert Quinn and Melvin Ingram. The other's Melvin. So you just choose which is which.
Okay,
yeah,
got it.
PFF overall grade of 73.6.
Sorry, this is for this season, right? Up to this point this season?
This is this season for Robert Quinn and last year Melvin Ingram before the Chiefs traded for him. At the point of the trade.
I'm with
so
you.
now I should have explained that.
That's
My
okay.
apologies.
No, that's what I'm here for.
Thank you for clarifying. One of them has a 73.6 overall. One of them had a 43.8 overall.
Well, so here's my thought process. One thing I do know is that Robert Quinn, this is a Matt Lane special here, so we can talk to him about this in an hour. He got double teamed a lot so far this year, Robert Quinn has. I think that the feeling is he has not produced a ton in Chicago this year. I also feel like Melvin Ingram in Pittsburgh had more or less disappeared.
He was a hostage.
When that's a great point. Mike Tomlin literally called him a hostage.
They wanted people that wanted to be there, not prisoners or hostages.
Volunteers, not hostages.
That's
was
what it
the
was.
Phrase that I'll never forget because
and
Mike Tomlin is special. It's
because
okay.
You just found out that I forgot how he said it.
That's all right. I would guess maybe that I'm overthinking it. If you would have said real quick, I would have said that Ingram had the lower grade between the two at this point last year. Meta makes me think it's the inverse, but
it is the inverse. Melvin Ingram at this time had a 73.6 overall. Right now, Robert Quinn is a 43.8. You want to go run grade? One of them has a 68.2. One of them has a 39.4.
I would guess that Ingram has the higher number.
Good call.
Thank you.
Well done. One of them, pass rush grade, has an 82.1. One of them has a 56.9.
The surprise there is that Melvin Ingram had an 82 PFF grade at this point last season.
How'd you guess that was Melvin? Good
it's
job.
crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, 82.1 for Melvin Ingram, 56.9 for Robert Quinn. And total pressures, Melvin Ingram, I'm just going to tell you you know the answer now. Melvin Ingram had 18. Robert Quinn right now has 14. What's interesting is that Robert Quinn has done this in 7 games so far. Melvin Ingram did that in 6. They both 1 sack. Robert Quinn 1 sack. Last year, Melvin Ingram 1 sack. Melvin Ingram had 10 tackles. Right now, Robert Quinn has 8. And they both had 2 tackles for loss at the time. On the surface, just by those numbers, you would say the Chiefs were acquiring a better player last year in Melvin Ingram for a cheaper price, both against the cap and in trade value in the 6th rounder versus the 4th rounder.
Yeah.
The track record of 1 year removed from 18.5 sacks versus Melvin Ingram being 4 years removed from a double-digit sack season was, what are you really going to get from Melvin Ingram? Is he the same guy? He's lost a step. Robert Quinn does not have the lost a step mantra attached to him because of the almost 20 sacks a year ago. I don't know what to think of Robert Quinn and the type of player he is. I do know that a couple of the ESPN analysts yesterday pointed to, and maybe this is from the Robert Quinn side, and maybe this is from the Bears side just by looking out for Robert Quinn, said Quinn and Eberflus never really connected. That it just really didn't work between the two. I will grant you the argument, not you specifically, but I'll grant the argument that Robert Quinn's quote-unquote struggles this year, not matching what he did last year, could be because Eberflus and Quinn didn't really get along. But even if I grant you that argument, you'd have to explain to me why Melvin Ingram was a hostage and put up those numbers.
Right.
And again, Pro Football Focus, grain of salt.
Sure.
It's not the end-all, be-all. Right, we had fun with Patrick Mahomes being graded as a 2 after the Cardinals game, right? Like the 8th best quarterback PFF grade. So it is always a grain of salt. But there are some things where you look at PFF and you go, oh, who are the best defensive tackles in the league based on PFF? Oh, it's Donald and Jones by a wide margin.
Yep.
Oh, that makes sense.
Looks right. All right. Passes the sniff test.
Looks about right. So I don't know if Robert Quinn is playing at a 43.8 level and compared to Melvin Ingram that was playing at a 73.6 level last year. But it's something to think about when it's the immediate, why didn't the Chiefs give up a 4th rounder for Robert Quinn? We'll talk about whether or not they should have, what we think they could do, should do. Is there a move to be made by the Chiefs coming up before that Tuesday trade deadline? We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
He's 8th, but that's a little misleading because it's cumulatively.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Beards. Coming up at 11 o'clock, Matt Lane. We'll talk with him. He's from KC Sports Network, KC Laboratory Podcast. Get his thoughts on the Chiefs, et cetera, et cetera. So, Robert Quinn traded yesterday. So let's get into it. Should the Chiefs make a move? We'll start there. Because should is a relative term, and sort of, should they? Okay, well, that includes how much would it cost? What's the price? What is the draft pick? What's the position, right? So should they make a move? And it is such a, well, it depends answer. It's tough to come back with anything but, well, if it makes sense. Right. Yeah, if it makes sense, yeah, I think they should make a move. I don't think it's a hard and fast one way or another to where if they don't make a move, you've lost the plot. Like the Royals this last year at the trade deadline, right. If they did not make a move, it's like, what are you even doing? Right? What's the point of you? What is it you say you do here? That's not the case. If the Chiefs make a move, all right, we can assess it, we can analyze it, see what position it is, what they gave up, what the salary cap is, are there years left on the deal? What does it actually do for the Chiefs this year? If they don't, then I guess we can assess it from teams that do make trades and what the price tag was. Yep. So we know Robert Quinn went for a 4th round. It's not a hypothetical. Boy, if they would have traded Robert Quinn, the Bears didn't end up trading Robert Quinn. If they would have traded him, clearly it was too much because teams were not willing to trade whatever it was. And it might have been a 4th rounder the whole time. And the Eagles were like, nah, we'll give you a 5th, and that's it. That's our final offer. Well, too bad. We're hanging out with Robert Quinn. We got him 2 more years. Doesn't matter. So we'll be able to analyze and assess a little bit more. But there is an element from me of benefit of the doubt to those in charge, even if there is skepticism in the fan base of how good Brett Veach is as a GM or as a trader or even as a drafter. It's more benefit of the doubt because I think Terrell Suggs was an impact. Wisniewski helped him out. Melvin Ingram last year was pretty good. They've missed on a couple of running backs, so don't go that route.
Yeah.
Okay.
Young or old, doesn't matter.
Unless it's a 7th rounder for Saquon Barkley, then right. Do it.
Sure.
Then go ahead and make the trade because that guy is playing out of his freaking mind right now. So do that. Other than that, yeah, running backs, not the best in terms of acquisitions and things like that. Offensive line, wide receiver, kind of depends who it is. I wouldn't be happy if the Chiefs traded a 1st or 2nd day pick for a wide receiver.
Oh boy, no, me neither. That would be startling.
Yes.
I was still going to go ahead and put my foot down and say I'd rather them not make a move than trade too much for Brian Burns, right?
Well, yeah, right.
So but that goes back to it's all about the cost, the player, the position. And so it is why I think the Robert Quinn deal is such an interesting watermark because your instinct is to say, well, when the Chiefs are trying to trade for players, they are going to have to give a round better of a pick or add a sweetener because they're picking after every other team. Well, the Eagles aren't necessarily in that boat. They're the best team in the NFC.
Right now, they're picking after the Chiefs.
And the Chiefs right now are the 2nd best team in the AFC. I mean, that's sort of where you end up in terms of... So that's very, very close, right? If the Chiefs offer a 4th, do the Bears send them to the AFC instead? I don't know. A 4th round pick is a very interesting unit of measurement because I think 1, 2, 3, you've got examples in your head where you know these guys are impact players. 5 and 6, we all kind of know, hey, you got some shots you can take. The 7th round was enormously kind to the Chiefs this year. Already that's been proven. But with Josh Williams and Isaiah Pacheco, but a 4 and a 5 are right in those spaces where it's hard to think of all the great players that have come from that round, but you're pretty sure those picks have value. Mm-hmm. That's where I end up. Specifically with the Bears, as we already talked about, the Bears paying $7.1 million of the remaining base salary of Robert Quinn. So the Eagles basically get him for free on the salary front this year. I kind of buy the idea that he was in a bad situation that made him look worse. I also still did not drive home yesterday like just absolutely fuming with my eyebrows touching because the Chiefs didn't trade for Robert Quinn. If they would have made this move, I think I would have come in here today and been like, maybe a little rich for my blood, but I totally understand why they felt like it was worth making this move. I also sit here now in reality saying, totally understand why they didn't want to pay that price.
I think they could have beat the Eagles draft pick with the same round.
Dolphins pick?
Based on the Dolphins pick.
Ah, that's true.
From Tyreek Hill. I think they could have. If they'd have said, look, we'll give you the Dolphins pick. Do you think the Dolphins pick is going to be better or worse than the Eagles or our other pick?
Yeah, good point.
They would probably say, okay, we'll take the Dolphins 4th rounder. We think that's going to be a better selection than the Eagles. And
Extra 3rd rounder as well from Ryan Poles. So you have a little more flexibility in that range.
And that's the other element of this is if Ryan Poles said 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other, I'm not trading with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Not because I don't like them, because I don't want it to seem like there's one friend doing another friend a favor and anything that's unsavory in the NFL that, oh, well, we were actually offered a 3rd rounder by this team, but Brett Veach, gave me a real shot and put me in the position, and now I'm a GM. I'll trade Robert Quinn to him for a 4th round, right? Nothing like that going on. Of course, that would be reported. If the Eagles actually offered a 3rd rounder and he chose the Chiefs for a 4th rounder,
sure.
He might be fired on the spot, right? I mean, so that's absurd. But I do wonder if it's 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other. If it's, well, I'll go with the Eagles if it's close to the Chiefs draft pick and the Eagles draft pick, kind of the same thing, even though you're trading them in the NFC. Even though you can, not like it would matter for the Bears this year.
Matt, or for many years in the future, perhaps.
Probably right.
Robert Quinn will be retired before the Bears are good. Courtney Cronin, covering the Bears for ESPN, tweeted this out, and I saw also this through Matt Lane, retweeting with a bunch of crying, laughing emojis yesterday. Courtney tweeted, Poles noted how Bears assistant GM Ian Cunningham, who was previously in Philadelphia's front office, was instrumental in getting a trade executed, given his relationship with Eagles GM Howie Roseman. So it was a different friend of a friend relationship for Ryan Poles and Howie Roseman, with the Bears assistant GM bridging that gap. We talk all the time about, well, hey, maybe Chris Ballard's going to be in maybe Brett V. Hey, what's the relationship with John Dorsey when he was still a GM?
Yeah.
I have no idea whatsoever how much those relationships end up impacting these trades and stuff. I think it's a big deal most of the time. I think those relationships most likely matter. But then sometimes a tweet like that comes out and you're like, okay, well, either maybe Ryan Poles doesn't love Brett Veach, or the Chiefs just legit weren't interested, at least at that price point, which makes sense. There's the other report from Aaron Wilson that the Chiefs had inquired about Brandon Cooks.
Right.
Everybody's inquiring about It's like one of Mick Schaefer's cul-de-sac parties right now. Nothing wrong with an inquiry. What? Who said that?
Mick. Brandon Cooks is the name I wrote down. I'm not sure I would be in the Brandon Cooks market if the Chiefs were to give up a late round pick and have to pay him $500,000 the rest of the way. I'd be good with that. But hearing from somebody who covers the Houston Texans say it would probably be a 2nd day pick, yeah.
And for that reason, I'm out.
No, thank you. A 2nd or 3rd rounder? I mean, look, I get it. He has had the most 1st rounders used on him in the history of the NFL.
It's unreal.
1st round draft pick, 1st round trade, and now you want like a 2nd or 3rd rounder for him as well? Like, why are teams keep trading him? Well, because they get him and whatever it might be. I think he's a good receiver. But if there's a team that's going to overpay for him to pay a 2nd or 3rd rounder, then it's got to be the Packers, and the Chiefs are not in the position of a wide receiver that the Packers are.
No.
And they may get Odell Beckham Jr. without having to give up a draft pick if that's a route they want to go down. It's just a matter of how much you would have to pay. So you'd have to pay the draft pick compensation, but Brandon Cooks is only going to cost you $500,000. The 2 names that I'm interested in to see if they would even be available, you mentioned Chris Ballard, whether there's a relationship there. Yannick Ngakoue would cost right around $2 million the rest of the way. He's got 3.5 sacks, 4 tackles for loss. Contract year, so you get him as a rental.
5 teams in 4 years. Just a crazy career arc. I was looking at him last night.
And he's produced.
Yeah, everywhere.
He's produced. So is Ngakoue somebody that would make a difference on this team? How much would it cost in a draft pick? You know it's going to cost you a little over $2 million. Yep. You have cleared that space with Travis Kelce, you'd have about $1 million and change left over in your salary cap if you had to pay Ngakoue the $2+ million. The other name, and I'm not sure they would trade him because of what he means to the city and what he means in that organization, is Cam Jordan of the Saints. Would cost around $500,000. And this is a man this year that already has 4.5 sacks, 32 tackles, and 8 tackles for loss. Cam Jordan.
I kind of like that one.
I don't know. The Saints are what, 2-5? They aren't exactly I think they're 2-5, right?
Yeah.
They're not a Carolina Panther fire sale. But they just announced Andy Dalton's their quarterback the rest of the way. They ain't exactly competing anytime soon. They've got salary cap issues and they've got draft pick issues. And when they start competing, is Cam Jordan going to be a part of that? It's kind of like the Whit Merrifield for the Royals. Is Whit Merrifield going to be in a position to really help this team at his age when this team is ready to win a division? Cam Jordan is, 33 years old already? It feels a little bit like Calais Campbell and whether or not he was going to be traded, and then he was, and he went for a 5th rounder. If Cam Jordan's available for a 5th rounder, I would sprint to the phone to offer it for the Saints, for a 5th rounder. I don't know. It might be what he means to the city, what he means to the Saints, that you're going to have to go around up what typical asking price would be, because it's a hit to the fan base, even though we're struggling, for this guy to not be a part of the team.
I think that is a very interesting one. The one thing that I keep wishing is that there was somebody who you could say, hey, this guy could be a useful piece in 2023 as well.
Absolutely.
Not Brian Burns, $100 million, but somebody who might also be able to keep you from having to sign your Carlos Dunlap equivalent next year. And Cam Jordan is older. He's been in the league for a decade or whatever, but I don't think of him as necessarily being on his last dance. I would be intrigued by that. Something similar you could say for Jerry Hughes, where again, like I'd like to see them continue to bolster that position with youth and good players, but I also want them to do it at a cheap asking price and on a rookie contract, ideally. And now we're just talking about the draft again. The draft isn't going to help until April, so it is a complicated place they're in because the position, frankly, has underperformed at this point.
Cam Jordan is 33. And so you wonder, like, okay, how soon is the cliff coming for him? We've seen defensive ends last a little bit longer than defensive tackles.
Yep.
He's 33. It would cost you $500,000 this year. He's 13.9 against the cap next year and 5.2 against the cap in 2024.
They could work on that number.
So
probably.
Could you lower the cap hit next year and take more of a dead cap, or even a dead cap hit at all, because you wouldn't have a dead cap hit the next 2 years because all of the guaranteed money would stay with the Saints.
Okay, yeah.
So you could cut him at the end of this year, or you could take those 2 years left on his contract, restructure in a way that you're not taking a $14 million cap hit next year on Cam Jordan, and you'd have him as a 34-year-old and a 35-year-old, and then maybe move on at that point, depending on what it costs you. I don't know. It's just a thought.
This is officially fan fiction, so take it with all the salt you can. But if you have Cam Jordan and you say, hey, you know what, man, we're just going to go ahead and pay you $14 million this year because you were awesome the back half of the season. You give Chris Jones that contract extension. You make that first-year cap hit real low. You let Cam Jordan walk after one, and then Jones' cap hit would increase. Yeah. You could have some fun with the numbers on that one.
You're essentially, next year's cap hit for Cam Jordan is essentially what Frank Clark's is this year.
Yeah.
So you would be exchanging Cam Jordan and Frank Clark at the same amount of money.
I'm sold, Jason. I'm sold. You know, you had to work pretty hard for me on that, but I'm sold. I'm hitting the deal button. Where's my money? I'm hitting Howie. Deal, Howie.
I want that suitcase.
Howie, give me the suitcase.
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe the Saints might just say he's not available.
Sure.
But they are trading some pieces. They are looking to move some pieces at the trade deadline. Is Cam Jordan one? That's probably, I wouldn't call it like a white whale, but it's certainly somebody that I would be very interested if the Chiefs were to kick the tires on and maybe say, yeah, we'll go what they did with Robert Quinn. We'll give a 4th rounder for Cam Jordan, because I'll take a 4th rounder for Cam Jordan over Robert Quinn. Comparing the current production in that Robert Quinn has 10 tackles and 1 sack and 2 tackles for loss, and Cam Jordan has 4.5 sacks, 32 tackles, and 8 tackles for loss this year as a 33-year-old. He has not hit a cliff. All right? If the cliff is coming, it's not next week, and it's probably not this year. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, wrap up this hour next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I was going to tell you when you came in here that there's going to be a time when I'm going to be at your house while you're asleep.
On Sports Radio 810.
Gambling problem? Getting help is your...
Grains of salt all over the place, like sand through the hourglass. So are the grains of salt we talk about in sports radio. We're talking about trades. Jacob Sports, Jakob Sports. Clearly, I'm familiar with it.
I'm nervous about this mysterious force. Trying to get Beard to send me the tweet.
Rick Saratella. I've got the tweet now.
Okay.
I've got the tweet in front of me. Rick Saratella has about 6,300 followers on Twitter. He's a publisher of NFL Draft Bible on
I know
Sports Illustrated.
Draft Bible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Advanced scout for the NFL Pro Bowl. He's a member of the Pro Football Writers of America. And he works with Jakob Sports, again, Jakib. He's followed by 30 different people that I follow in football, so probably some legitimacy to him. And he says that the Eagles are attempting to acquire New Orleans Saints running back Alvin Kamara. And we just talked about the fact that the Saints are open for business. Again, they don't have the for sale sign, everything must go like the Panthers feel like they have, even though the Panthers may not be trading Brian Burns. The Saints might end up trading more players than the Panthers, which could be odd, but it would feel like the Panthers are more in a fire sale than the Saints are. But Alvin Kamara could be an Eagle, according to this particular person. It's the only one I've seen.
NFL Draft Bible does good work on the draft analysis and all of that. I don't know them. I don't know the network we're referring to or any of that, but yeah, sort of interesting.
But I would say if you're a member of the Pro Football Writers of America, if you are someone who is respectable at Sports Illustrated with the NFL Draft Bible, and you're followed by a lot of different football people in the industry that I follow, whether that matters if I follow them or not, but just going through like Doug Farrar, Felder, Mortensen, Schofield.
Yeah, I know they do great.
Lockenfora.
They do great work on the draft. We had
Jeff
one of them
Schwartz,
on from
Mike
NFL Draft
Renner,
Bible. This
Austin Gale,
pre-draft
Chad
process,
Ryder.
yeah.
So Randy Mueller. So he's followed by a number of different people, and he's put out there that Howie Roseman is in the works of attempting to acquire Alvin Kamara right now. So
I can say pretty confidently that feels within the character of both of those teams right now.
absolutely. And if that's the case, then it would be a sign that the Saints are willing sellers.
I had
Which they
another story that I had popped open, also from the SI/Fan Nation site for the Saints, because I was trying to see if there was any rumoring about Cam Jordan, and there was nothing here specifically about Cam Jordan, but some other pieces they were considering the Saints maybe having to move on from. Marcus Davenport. Now that's going to be in more of the Brian Burnsy sort of category.
That'll be a total rental player who hasn't really produced this year, but is going to demand top dollar this offseason.
But
whether he gets it or not.
What about David Onyemata? Defensive tackle. So Seth Kaiser already wrote about. We were reading Seth's story at the same time, totally by accident this morning, of him looking at Chris Jones's work at the edge.
Right.
I don't think Chris Jones needs to live on the edge. When he's been out there, he's been incredible. The Chiefs lost Tershawn Morton. I could see a little interior kind of bolstering there.
Yeah.
They also list perhaps trading Marcus May or Tyrann Mathieu.
They should look into Tyrann Mathieu.
What do you think he could do in this defense? I mean,
they need leadership.
Chiefs Twitter's been pretty low key for a while now. Bring him home.
Also, Juju ain't doing TikTok stories before games, right? So it's pretty low. It's a little different.
Pretty different.
It's a little different. Tyreek goes and has a podcast, although Travis Kelce has a podcast too. So, it's not like the Chiefs were like, no podcast, and Tyreek was like, yes, free. But Juju was TikToking all over the place in Pittsburgh. He ain't done it Kansas City yet.
He should start. That's what you meant, right?
Totally in favor. Him and Jackson.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Not much of a break yesterday, Herbie, unless you're counting lunch. I had lunch. That was good, right?
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, let's talk some Chiefs football. Matt Lane from KC Sports Network, KC Laboratory Podcast, joining us here in the Zone as we talk about this Chiefs team, some NFL football as well. Matt, what's up, man? Welcome into the show. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. I don't have to stress about a Chiefs game this week. Just going to kind of sit back, relax, watch some football. Chiefs coming off a big win. This is a good football week for us Chiefs fans.
You know what? And it's been interesting to sit back and look at some of the other things going on in the NFL, to talk about some of those things, but also kind of sit back and start to assess where this Chiefs team is through 7 weeks and what we thought they would look like, what they do look like, both on the offense, the defense, things like that. And so, I want to start there with you before we hone in on some other things that you wrote about, like the blitzing of Steve Spagnuolo last week coming off the Bills game and, Juju Smith-Schuster's impact, which all of those certainly can intertwine with an assessment of what they look like. But going back to pre-Cardinals week of this Chiefs team to now entering the bye week, what would your assessment of this team be in how they're playing compared to what you thought they would look like?
It's a little tough. It's probably about the production, or the record is probably about kind of what you hope for when you're given the schedule that you saw coming out. Their loss to the Bills isn't something you kind of get bent out of shape about. Like, all the results and where they are within like the standings or record-wise, I think this is about what was probably a pretty reasonable take. Obviously, nobody would have had the Colts as one of the losses, and the Bucs, and then this past week the 49ers as your wins, and the Chargers. So record-wise, it's probably about what you expected. But in terms of how the team looks, I have to say I'm pretty happy with where they are, and very optimistic, because I think this team has a lot of new pieces on both sides of the ball. I think they've left a lot of meat on the bone offensively, especially as they're trying to figure out how all these pieces will work. So you get these flashes or glimpses of it looking great, of it looking absolutely outstanding, and then there's a little bit of like a return to, you can very clearly see this is a lot of new pieces trying to fit together, and a new scheme kind of trying to figure out how to attack defenses. And defensively, they look so different now than what I expect them to look by come playoff time on defense. I don't even know how you go about gauging what the defenses look like so far. So I think very optimistic is probably the best way to put it.
So if we look at it and say, it's pretty close to what we thought they would be, the optimism you have moving forward based on what you've seen the first 7 weeks, is there an outlier, either high or low, of what you thought somebody, some unit, something would look like on this team that's an outlier that, wow, this is much better than I thought? Or, there are some issues there that I did not think would be the case?
For both sides of it, I think overall the offensive line has not been as good as we all kind of anticipated coming into the year. And part of that, it's come in spurts. There's been some weeks where the offensive line has been pretty good, like against the Buccaneers or the 49ers, and there's been other weeks where they've been pretty bad. So I think just the inconsistency of that unit, which a lot of people, not even just Chiefs fans, pegged as a top 5, top 3 unit coming into the year. So they've been a little bit of a disappointment, but I still have hope they kind of get it turned around. And I think the offense is helping them a little bit more with the way they're calling things out, which kind of goes into the biggest surprise. I think offensively, they're starting to carve out a little bit of an identity and roles for all these new pieces, and they're doing it earlier than I would have anticipated. I think that's the big thing. You're starting to see where MVS is going to, how he's going to play, how they're going to use him, how they're going to use Juju Smith-Schuster, how they're using all these tight ends, Jerick McKinnon and the running back rotation. Like, they have started to find these roles for all of these guys relatively early on in the season. So now they get to come out of the bye and see how they've perfected that, how they're going to continue to maximize that, because they've already kind of figured out, I think, where all these pieces fit together for this particular team.
So identity and offense, let's start there and hone in on some of the things that I wanted to talk to you about anyway. So the offensive line, not as good as maybe you had hoped, and I think a lot of people are in that same boat of, I thought they would look a little bit better. And in games where it's like, okay, the offensive line really protected Patrick Mahomes, the couple of games that stand out versus decent or good fronts that they've been going up against, the Buccaneers, offensive line was really good, and maybe that was the challenge from, the week before that they got to, you'd better step up and play better coming off the way that you guys played against the Colts. And then this past week against the 49ers in a good front, and Nick Bosa and what they have to offer in rushing the passer and how much time Patrick Mahomes had to throw the ball versus the Bills and the Raiders and some other teams. Is there a correlation in your mind of the ability to run the ball on early downs against the Bucs, where they were averaging 5-6 yards on first down, and a lot of those were just simply handing off to Edwards-Helaire, and whether he got what was blocked or maybe even a little bit more, they weren't gaining. It wasn't 2nd and 9 and 3rd and 7s. It was a lot of 3rd and 1s, 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 3s. And against the 49ers, yes, there were some 3rd downs that were converted to big ones that were converted that were 3rd and longs. They weren't necessarily in those positions, and they had a success on the ground in early downs. Is that a correlation in protecting Patrick Mahomes and having a little bit more success in the run game, where we look at the offensive line and say, not as good as we had hoped, and maybe it's just simply the run game is just worse than we thought it would be, which is sort of expecting it to be kind of average?
That plays a part. I think early down success rate is certainly going to play a part in getting to protect Mahomes, because while when you play the Chiefs, you're probably anticipating pass a lot more often than run. Guys out on the field still on 1st and 10 are going to honor the run a lot more than they're going to on 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 8. So, yeah, early down success will play a role. I think the biggest two things that stand out to me from the Buccaneers game and then the 49ers game, and this could be, a little bit of a chicken or egg kind of argument just in terms of maybe they just played better in those games so it was more apparent, but it seemed like the Chiefs had an offensive plan of attack to specifically attack those two defenses. Like, they came out with the run game against the Buccaneers game where they were getting into all these different gap scheme runs. They were pulling linemen around. They were running these pitch plays on these pin and pull things. And they were doing a lot with the run game, and it seemed like they had to have seen something from this Buccaneers defense to where they knew that would work, whether that be the alignment of their defensive ends, how their linebackers step up, or like whatever it was, they saw something to attack, and they did. Against the 49ers, similar thing, it wasn't the run game. Now all of a sudden they were attacking their defensive ends that get up the field. This very aggressive 49ers defensive line that likes to get up the field. All of a sudden you're seeing a lot of chips. You're seeing them leave Nick Bosa unblocked and then going around him with the jet motion or rolling out around him. Like, it seemed like there was a very concentrated attack for both of those defenses, whereas I go back and watch the Bills or the Colts or even the Chargers, it kind of just seemed like the Chiefs were going out there to run their offense and see if it would beat the opposing defense a little bit more so than directly attacking a weakness that they may have found.
It's not that they are willing to give a game away regular season, but is there anything to the fact that the Bucs and 49ers are going to be a one-off in the middle of the season, and they will see the Chargers again, and they probably expect to see the Bills again, so maybe not this is exactly how we're going to go up against Joey Bosa this year, or this is exactly how we're going to attack Von Miller this year, that maybe a little bit here or there, but then come playoff time, all right, now we got something for you, Von, and the Bills defense, and if you think it's going to look like the first go-around, it's not, and at the end of the game, we're going to be going, wow, look what happened with Von Miller, and compare it to Nick Bosa and Shaq Barrett.
I 100% think that a little bit, and I don't know if that's good or bad, because it's the NFL, right? You have to win every single week. Like, these games matter, and now we're talking about seeding has now been impacted because not only did you lose the head-to-head, you have 2 losses within the conference. Like, you do lose a lot by losing those games. However, like, it's like a challenge that I can present there is watch the Bills game, watch the offense for the Bills, the Chiefs offense against the Bills, and then watch it for some of these other games. And while I think the Bills defense did a good job adjusting, they played an entirely different kind of defense than they normally play. So maybe the Chiefs just kind of got out game planned a little bit there, and that's why they didn't have an answer. I don't know. It just didn't seem like the Chiefs were going out of their way to attack the Bills defense from the get-go. It seemed a lot more like, hey, these are our staples as an offense. Let's just play them. So, yeah, maybe there could be a little bit, and I wouldn't put it past Andy Reid to maybe want to keep a little bit reserved in the bag for if this matchup comes around again, or just treating the whole thing as a learning opportunity. I don't mean to say they weren't trying to win. It's just the game plans seem a lot more specific against the 49ers, against the Buccaneers. Even the Cardinals in the first game of the season seem just a little bit more specific and a little bit more scattershot in some of these other games so far.
And also, like we talk about, like, it's not like they weren't trying to win. Some of it is just can simply come down to execution, and it sounds so simple, and it's not the deep dive into, well, this person is to blame and that person is to blame. And against the Bucs, they were brilliant on third downs, and against the 49ers, I mean, they're up by 5 and they hit the 3rd and 20 with Jerick McKinnon. They're up by 5 and they hit the 3rd and 11 for 57 yards to Marquez Valdez-Scantling. If those 2 third downs are not converted, I don't know the conversation we're having right now about the Chiefs and the 49ers, because against the Bills, those third downs were not converted. They had a screen pass set up brilliantly for Burton, and again, it might have been a touchdown. I mean, honestly, like, Creed Humphrey might have just been, jogging down with him, and they could have been sipping tea together with 2 guys to beat and 2 blockers in front of them already. But it wasn't executed. It was a quicker pass than maybe Mahomes should have thrown it. It was a little bit more heat. Maybe Burton was expected to be a little bit more to Mahomes' left and to Burton's right, and just wasn't there. Whatever the case, that play was such a huge missed opportunity, whereas in the 49ers game and the Bucs game, it didn't feel like those opportunities were missed very often. And I feel like the theme of the Bills game was, Creed Humphrey just drifts 1 yard too far downfield, and MVS's touchdown's taken off the board, and then they throw an interception. And Michael Burton's, a screen pass could have been a touchdown. And if Isaiah Pacheco breaks the tackle on Milano, he might be running for another 20, 30 yards. And those things just did not happen, and that's sort of the theme of that game. Is it as simple as that?
It absolutely can be, right? Like you say, you point out some plays, and we can even go the other side of it. If Spagnuolo decides to call a blitz on 3rd and 13 from the Bills' own 2-yard line before half, what does that play look like if pressure does come? Because up to that point, Allen hadn't done anything against it. If Joshua Williams, who was in good position, just happens to make a play on one of those 2 long touchdowns, or, God forbid, Josh Allen doesn't throw a perfect pass on both of those long touchdowns. Like, one play could have absolutely changed the outlook of that entire game. So, yeah, a lot of it is always going to come down to execution, just like you're mentioning. It's just, I do think the Chiefs made it harder on themselves to execute well versus the Bills and versus the Colts, and even a little bit versus the Chargers than they did again these other 2, offensive showcases that we're talking about as the good ones versus the Bucs and the 49ers. Like, they made it a little bit more difficult on themselves in those games, and it still comes down to the players have to execute. I just think they gave themselves a lot of layups. When they've looked their best, there's been a lot of layups mixed in with, some of the greatness that is Mahomes, some of the greatness that is Andy Reid's, game design and game plans. But they also gave themselves easy stuff. The easy stuff just wasn't as oftenly available, I guess, versus the Bills and the Colts and things like that. So it's just game planning is where I'm coming down to on it right now, and that could be, like we mentioned, maybe they're trying to hide a little bit of something going forward.
I've been just floating in the water here, waiting to see if you'd mentioned Spags or that blitz, because I have been stealing from you, Matt, so aggressively the last 2 weeks, and sometimes I even remember to credit you for it. But the idea, when people were tweeting and complaining and having the conversation around blitzing Josh Allen backed up against their own end zone throughout that game, I just thought put it really excellently, saying, hey, when the Chiefs have gotten stops here, it's been off the blitz. It's a double-edged sword, but at least it's still a sword. I have said the phrase, at least it's still a sword, a dozen times since I stole this from you. But I am very interested by that particular methodology that Spags has been putting out there, and why you have the tolerance for it that it seems like you might.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's just kind of it. With the Bills game especially, and I think it's a little different when you're facing a Jimmy Garoppolo, right? The Jimmy Garoppolo, you want to play some coverage and let him walk himself into a mistake, let him run into a sack or throw a bad interception. Like, that's fine. You can do that against Jimmy Garoppolo. But when you're playing Justin Herbert, Tom Brady, Josh Allen, you have to force them to make mistakes at some point in time. They're not just going to make them for you. And so the Chiefs, the way their defense is set up right now with all the new pieces, all the rookies, all these guys cycling in and out, their coverage schemes have been pretty basic. Like, yeah, L'Jarius Sneed's dropped and played center field once or twice, but overall they're playing a lot of static zone. They're playing a lot of the 1990s, early 2000s cover too, because I just don't think they trust the communication and all these new pieces to everybody be on the same page. So they're keeping it simple. They're keeping it basic. It's new guys that maybe don't have the highest skill ceiling right now, but especially as rookies, they're not there yet. They're overmatched. So if this is all the case, if you're playing static, easy-to-beat coverages against good quarterbacks when you don't have the horses to win the race, you got to force someone to make a mistake at some point in time. And Steve Spagnuolo, for all of the critiques, he is one of the best blitz designers and callers in the entire NFL. So just lean on what you have, and that's him out there dialing up the pressures. Yeah, you'll give up some bad big plays from time to time. We've seen it this year, but also look at when the Chiefs are getting the majority of their stops versus good teams. A lot of it's coming on those same situations. You kind of got to live and die with it if you want to get stops consistent, or not even consistently, just get stops at all, it seems like at times.
The blitzing by Steve Spagnuolo and the conversation around it, especially after the Bills game, feels a little bit like the fourth down attempts and the analytics behind going for it is, when you convert on a 4th and 2 at your own 45-yard line and then you score a touchdown on that drive, it's not really discussed.
Forgotten by history.
But if you're down by 3 and you go for it on 4th and 1 at the other team's 25-yard line and you don't get it, you're an idiot. Just take the points. Whereas Spags blitzes and impacts the game and it's an incomplete pass, that's awesome. That's cool. Then he blitzes and leaves Josh Williams one-on-one with Gabe Davis, and he's an idiot. And so there's a little bit of you kind of forget the times that it works, especially the 6 days before when he blitzed and left Josh Williams on Devontae Adams on the last play of what ended up being the last Raiders offensive possession. You forget that and you focus on the Josh Williams on Gabe Davis blitz that took place. Kind of has that fourth down conversion attempt analytics feel to it that you forget some of the really successful ones and you focus on the ones that didn't work and go, what an idiot, why would he do that?
No, absolutely. And you think about, you don't even have to go back to the Raiders game at this point in time. You go back to just the Bills game and how that second quarter, I don't think the Bills completed a single pass for more than 3 yards versus the Chiefs blitzing in the second quarter. And then they have them backed up. And then all of a sudden, they stop blitzing on that 3rd and 13. It's a 2-minute drill, so I get the concept behind not blitzing there, but they move right down the field. As soon as they get just outside the red zone there, they're like, oh, this is an area where the Chiefs like to blitz from. We see them do it all the time. Let's give us an easy out and this go route. If it's not available, if it's not one-on-one, the Bills can just throw the ball out of bounds. So it's a good play call by them, but they catch the Chiefs trying to blitz. The Chiefs are trying to force the Bills into a mistake because they're clearly driving down the field with no resistance at this point in time. Then they try it, and it doesn't work out, but everybody forgets the entire rest of that second quarter, the Chiefs were shutting down the Bills' offense by essentially doing just that, by just blitzing nonstop on all these late downs, all these 2nd and longs, 3rd and longs. That's how they slowed them down. You go back to the Raiders game even, most people kind of forgot about Rashad Fenton getting beat on the, cover 0 blitz that scored the first touchdown because the Chiefs ended up winning. They called the same pressure again. They stop it. Your Adams and Renfro run into each other. They stop them and they win. People don't even bring up that Adams, scored a touchdown on a blitz again anymore because the Chiefs won the game. So like you're saying, you're looking at the results. You're seeing what happened. People remember the good blitz, not the bad one from that game because it was a win. Whereas versus the Bills, everybody just remembers the 2 bad blitzes on the 2 touchdowns and forget the other 8 that were extremely successful.
The irony of Steve Spagnuolo looking at a play and saying that was a mistake and people saying maybe the biggest play of the game was this team converting on 3rd and 13, the irony in that Spags was conservative in that position as opposed to, he went cover 0 on 3rd and 13 and they threw it up to Stephon Diggs. What'd you think was going to happen, man? Just play coverage and keep everything in front of you and go make the tackle, call timeout, get the ball at the 50 and then really take control of the game, which is obviously what he was thinking. I don't know if I'm more frustrated with the fact that they didn't blitz, which, is results-oriented discussion of why didn't you blitz? Well, they picked up a first down, so why didn't you do something different? My issue sort of is, so they chose to play coverage, and both Gabriel Davis and Stephon Diggs were open past the sticks. That to me is a bigger issue than just, hey, we're going to play coverage and keep everything in front of us. Cool. Then why were their 2 best receivers open on that play?
No, and the coverage of that play, I've looked at it numerous times. I don't know what the Chiefs were going for on the coverage of that play. They had a lot of defenders over 2 receivers, and then they had the linebacker split out there, and they only had really 1 wide receiver and a real route to that side of the field, but the Chiefs had 4 bodies dedicated to those 4 receivers. It was an interesting call. I feel like somebody blew a coverage anyway.
Yeah.
I still don't like the idea, but it also seemed like there was a blown coverage. I'm guessing the concept was just, we're going to play the sticks, we're going to tackle something below, but look at who your own quarterback is, right? And now you're playing against Josh Allen. Consider him essentially the same guy, or Justin Herbert. Are those guys really going to lay it up on 3rd and 13 in this kind of game? No. Like, these are the few quarterbacks that will try to throw the ball 20 yards on 3rd and 13 from their own end zone. You're playing one of them. You have to remember that. And so I think playing coverage there, is a wild decision, and I never would have anticipated Spags being the conservative caller there, but he was on that one.
And maybe that's what he thought Ken Dorsey was thinking too, is that they're going to blitz, they're going to do something, we got to have a hot read right away, and we got to get this thing out and let somebody work in space. And Spags was like, cool, do it, and then we'll come up and tackle you. Cat and mouse game. Who knows what took place with that? But that's old news. They knock off the 49ers. They're sitting 5-2, which is a game better than I picked them to be. I thought they'd be 4-3 at the break. So certainly I will take it. The running game. Matt Lane is our guest. KC Sports Network, KC Laboratory Podcast. The man at KCSN that Brisco steals his phrases from.
I'm going to steal your idea that the blitz and the analytic conversations are basically poisoned by the same thing. I'm stealing all over today.
All good.
That's a good one too.
Next time you say, double-edged sword, at least they have a sword, I'll just step in and go, as Matt Lane says.
Yeah, that would be good. That would actually be really helpful.
As Matt Lane would say.
Because then I can go back to my favorite thing, stealing from KCSN without giving them credit. I mean, I love that. One of my favorite hobbies.
That's why I didn't know at least they have a sword was from Matt Lane, or I'd have been saying this the whole time, Matt.
Great. I swear I credited you at least the first time.
I feel like
at least the first time.
I feel like I'm the driver in this bank robbery and had no idea that I was actually the driver here.
That was
an accomplice.
We're going to get in touch about all these. We're going to go back. We're going to listen to them all. We're going to come back to the list. We're going to figure this out.
Just invoice me, man. I'm sorry.
I'm an unknown accomplice, an unwilling accomplice here. Let's talk about the running game because it changed this past week when Isaiah Pacheco was announced as the starter, and it's sort of been they will constantly believe in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Whatever it is about Edwards-Helaire they'll stay with them. Whether it is something other people may be seeing differently. What was your reaction in response to the announcement that Pacheco is going to be starting and getting more reps? And did you see a difference in the running game based on that, as opposed to maybe just like, Clyde Edwards-Helaire could have done the same thing because of how the plays were blocked, right?
No, honestly, my very first thought was quite simply, I wonder if he's going to return kickoffs, because if he is, he's not actually the starting running back. If he's still returning kickoffs, he's not running back one. He's just going to maybe be the first one out there. And I think that's kind of how the game played out. In the first half of that 49ers game, it was still Clyde, and everybody was still getting snaps. And I think Clyde still had the majority of them through the middle of that 49ers game. So I don't think much changed. I think they were just not necessarily trying to mix it up for mix-up purposes. I do think there is a plan to get Pacheco out there earlier in the game, especially in the first scripted 15 plays where Andy Reid will insert a couple runs that are not actual RPOs that they almost always turn into passes because it's Mahomes. So maybe that was the goal with that, right? In the first 15, you're going to run the ball. You don't get Andy Reid looking at his play sheet and picking all of his favorite passes. There are runs baked into that kind of game script. So you're getting him touches then. Maybe that was part of it. As far as the run game and how it looks goes, it's clearly a little different when it's him versus Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like, you can do more downhill stuff with Pacheco because he is going to hit every hole at 100 miles an hour. Whether he should or shouldn't, he's hitting them all at 100 miles an hour, and that plays a role. Like, it does get you positive yards. We see the good runs come off of it. I think there's also times where you would wonder if a McKinnon or if a Clyde Edwards-Helaire probably wouldn't run with a little bit more patience and let the offensive line create more space. I would like to see more Pacheco. None of the running backs as pure runners have done enough to say I think they are the number one guy. You might as well put the young guy in that has the most explosive ability, that I think gives you the most varied rushing attack out there. But it seems like it's going to be kind of a running back by committee all year.
So I'm going through the game logs real quick as you were talking about the committee and the different guys that might be there. And so far, 4 for 4. I've got 3. As I'm going to be talking here and explaining what I'm doing, I'm also going to finish up what I'm doing.
Welcome to the zone.
That's exactly right. Let's see. So 4 for 5 so far. And I'll explain to you what the 4 for 5 is so far. Maybe you can guess. I don't know. Take a shot.
What are you having lunch for today, Matt?
Let's see.
Oh, okay. 4 for 5.
5 for 6. And let's see what this one is. And this last one, game log.
I'm going to guess Clyde Edwards-Helaire leading the team in carries.
Nope, you're dumb.
I'm just trying to fill some space.
6 of 7. 6 of the 7 games this happened. And it's
gosh.
And it's based on what you were just saying about Pacheco starting and scripts in the first 15. 6 of the 7 games, the first play has been a run. The first play of the game in 6 of the 7 has been a handoff to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, or this last week, Pacheco.
That makes sense.
I mean,
I think that's a good place for Andy Reid to make sure there's runs in there, right? This is something we talked about
here you
going
go.
back
First
to
and
Philly.
10. They're running. If I'm a defense, I'm probably run blitzing on first. If I'm the Titans, run blitz first down, first play of the game, because they're going to hand it off to Pacheco, Edwards-Helaire, or Jerick McKinnon, or Ronald Jones, whoever's starting that game.
And I would love to go back and watch them all because I bet most of them are RPOs too, but I don't even think it's like a true RPO. I think they're just tagging something on the end of it, and they're only ever going to throw it if they have like leverage and the coverage. And that's just a way that Andy Reid doesn't have to – he's trying to ensure he doesn't have to come out after the game and say, oh, I didn't – not that I didn't realize, but I should have handed the ball off more. We should have ran it more. This is something he's done since Philly. Most coaches don't know how many carries all their running backs or how many times they've run the ball as the game's going on. They're deciding their plays and they're keeping up with the game flow. They're not keeping track of what the carries are. And Andy Reid's had multiple times where he's come out and said, oh, we could have run the ball more. I think baking in these like actual runs into the first 15 are a good way to go about making sure the numbers, the volume numbers are there by the end of the game. And if that's what you're going to do, it might as well be Pacheco. If you're going to put a pure run in there, it might as well be him over someone else. I think once you get out of those first 15, Clyde still makes the most sense. He's the best, dual threat running back they have. And I know it's a low bar to clear right now, but he's the best route runner of the bunch right now. I mean, McKinnon's better on screens or like in the open field, but just running different routes, Clyde's still probably the best. He presents some level of run threat when they're not asking him to run outside. So he's probably still their best when you're picking out of the entire play basket, the best option. I think that's how come you see him out snap guys still.
It's always one of the things is like who is the best of the runner, like who's going to get the most. And it's like, EPA over or yards over expected. It's like, Pacheco's better than Clyde Edwards-Helaire is this year. Also type of run, all of those things go into it. So here are the yards gained on the first play of the game in the handoffs for the Chiefs. 1-3-2, 5-3-2. Those are the 6 carries on first and 10, first play of the game. 1 yard, 3 yards, 2 yards, 5 yards, 3 yards, 2 yards. So at best, they were starting 2nd and 5. That's the best they've had a second down one this year. So
hey, I got news for all of us here real quick. I'm not even going to take the breaking news. Just tweeted by a couple different places. Jordan Schultz says Kadarius Toney to the Chiefs.
Whoa!
With a conditional 3rd round pick.
Whoa!
And a 6th. Kent Swanson just quote tweeted it. Are we all on Jordan Schultz?
I would have wanted to see somewhere else. That's why I was scrolling before I said something too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to see one more. I feel pretty confident, just not 100% confident.
I saw it from Ari Merov as well, and that made me think that it's also citing Jordan Schultz. So put a pin in this one, everybody. Wow. That would be strange for him. Here's what's weird. It's weird for him to have the terms already, and it's weird that he's the only person with the tweet. So I'm going to say that we're in a little holding pattern on this one, and we'll see how it goes. But that is a tweet there from Jordan Schultz.
Kadarius Toney specifically is a guy that I could see going through Jordan Schultz. Like, that's why I'm giving a little bit more credit.
Okay.
That's an interesting way to...
Toney.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think he is a guy that could have that connection.
He says conditional 3rd. I imagine that he actually means that it's the Ryan Pohl. Oh, interesting. He said their conditional 3rd. I'm guessing he means the compensatory 3rd would be my guess.
I kind of feel like conditional is like it's a conditional 3rd that if he were to play a lot can go up to maybe a 2nd or even maybe drop down to a 4th because the guy has played in 12 games in his career.
Yeah, that's why I think it's definitely conditional. And also, like, how is he even healthy right now? I don't even know if he's healthy. So that could be part of the phrasing for some of this stuff, too, like passing physicals and getting in there.
He hasn't played since September 18th.
seems like a lot for what Kadarius Toney has been so far.
Yeah,
in
it seems
NFL.
like you're trading based on what the thought of Kadarius Toney was coming out of Florida last year in the draft.
Hey, remember an hour ago, Jason, when we said, they're not they just can't trade a day 2 pick for a wide receiver.
I don't want him to trade for a wide receiver.
that was on this show an hour ago.
I mean, let me ask you this then, real quick. First thought: do the Chiefs have buyer's remorse on Sky Moore?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I thought that. No, I thought that during the game, but when you listen to Travis Kelce on his podcast, Unprompted, you listen to Andy Reid, Unprompted, they still all have such glowing things to say about him without being specifically asked. So I'm still relying on that. I think it's just a rookie wide receiver that barely played wide receiver in college, learning Andy Reid's system that has a lot of adjustments and asks you to do a lot.
Or, I will throw this out there as well, maybe not buyer's remorse on Sky Moore, maybe a younger reshuffling of what the wide receiver unit will look like in the second phase of Patrick Mahomes with Sky Moore as a possession underneath the slant routes, things like that, and Toney being your when McCole Hardman moves on at the end of this year, and without Tyreek Hill, here's the guy that runs a sub 4.4.
It's the book on McCole for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll take that spot.
That's a good call. I also just still haven't seen anyone else tweeting about it, and that makes me just a little weird. I just feel a little strange about that fact. So we'll keep an eye on it, obviously.
So let me ask you guys real quick, and then Matt will let you go. And this was not the plan to talk about Kadarius Toney at the end of this conversation. Real quick, let's say that it's true. Understanding that, hey, we know there's one report right now. Let's say it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Like it? Don't like it? The player. Eliminating compensation. Just what is Kadarius Toney? Do you like what his fit could be with the Chiefs? And the obvious starting point, and I'll eliminate it if healthy, that's acknowledged. But what can the Chiefs? What do the Chiefs have? What could they have in Kadarius Toney?
I was not the biggest Kadarius Toney fan coming out of college. I think my issue with him is I think you guys invoked the right name. He's what McCole Hardman's usage has been with the Chiefs, and I understand why they still want that player, especially if this is like we're looking at the future as well kind of move. He makes a lot of sense in the McCole Hardman role. I just don't know if that's worth trading multiple picks for when you're sitting here going into a draft with as many draft picks as they have, and you can get guys that do the same thing in the middle rounds if that's all you're going to ask them to do. So I'm hesitant about it right now. I didn't like him as a player. I don't think he was good in college until he was a senior, and that's usually a red flag for skill position guys. You can't stay healthy at the NFL. If this is true, I'm very hesitant about what's happening right now with that move.
So here's Matt Verderame tweeted it out and confirmed it. Tom Pelissero has tweeted it as well. Both of them have used the phrase third round compensatory pick, not conditional, which means that this Adam Schefter again. Now this says conditional third rounder from Schefter.
Yep. Let me see.
Verderame said again compensatory to me directly just now. So I think this is a third and a sixth for Kadarius Toney.
Is it a combination of third round compensatory that could be
a conditional compensatory pick? I don't know.
It's the Ryan Poles compensatory that could conditionalize to the actual third rounder if he plays a certain amount, or down to a fourth if he doesn't. I don't know. It's an odd. Here are the parameters set in stone for a guy who hasn't really got on the field and hasn't been able to get on the field because of injury. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Interesting move. Move.
The Chiefs took Nick Bolton last year with their first pick, and at number 58, and then they went Creed Humphrey at number 63. A lot of people thought maybe Terrace Marshall might have been the guy that the Chiefs were going to get when number 58 was there, and the Chiefs were on the clock. Terrace Marshall, they weren't interested, but do you think maybe a Rondale Moore or a Tutu Atwell? Not that Tutu's been all that good for the Rams, but if one of those guys were on the board, would Nick Bolton be a Chief? And they were looking at Toney or looking at an Elijah Moore that had they signed Trent Williams, maybe that's who they have instead of like a pass rushing defensive end, instead of giving up that first rounder for Orlando Brown. Like, I don't know what it would be, but I wonder how much they liked the wide receivers in the draft, and it's obvious they liked Kadarius Toney last year.
Yeah, and Veach has been very clear when he's made moves that they go and they sign guys in free agency or trade for guys that they like coming out. So I'm sure that's part. I'm sure that's a huge part of it for them is they had a high grade on him. He went before they could get him. I also think the move makes even a lot more sense without Tyreek Hill, right? Like
Yeah, you're true.
Now getting another guy that you just give the ball to him in space and see what he does. Like that's what his strength is. And so I get why the skill set makes sense. It seems like a lot for a guy who hasn't proven a lot in the NFL, and his one good year in college came when he was older than everybody he was playing against. Like that's where all my reservations lie right now with this one.
We'll see what happens. Matt, you're the man. Really appreciate the time and the extended time as well with that breaking news. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Looking forward to reading. Looking forward to going to KCSN and finding out what you guys think of Tony and the film study and all the breakdown there. Already looking forward to that. So get to work, guys. Damn it, Matt.
Right, I'm going to bust out the keyboard real quick. Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
Later, dude. There's Matt Lane.
Here's a stat for you from something
yes.
Matt just made me look out here. McCole Hardman is less than 1 year older than Kadarius Toney.
So they're almost the exact same age, is what you're saying?
Hardman is close to 1 year older.
So Hardman isn't 20. Hardman's already 24?
He's 24 and will turn 24 in 229 days.
When does he
Pro
turn
Football
25?
Reference. March 12th. Tony will turn 24 in January.
Yeah, so, wow.
Hardman's got about 10 months on him.
And 10 touchdowns. So there you go. I it wasn't a name that you thought you would hear. And
5 career starts.
The question I would have is the Giants are in a position to win record-wise the best division in football, and they traded their first-rounder from last year.
It's a lot of picks, man. It's a lot of picks. We got to take a break. I'll process for 5 minutes, and then we can see where we're at.
Text I just got into my phone from one of my good friends who is a diehard Giants fan, who has watched every Giants snap, Sunday ticket, has never missed a Giants game. He says here, very briefly, Tony will keep the training staff busy. We'll take a timeout. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
It's hot out
okay.
here. My knee pits are sweating. I'd love a little breeze on them.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, so the Chiefs have made a trade. The trade deadline is Tuesday at 3 o'clock. And it comes roughly an hour and 20 minutes after Josh and I had said, I would really not like to see the Chiefs trade a day 2 pick for a wide receiver.
Chiefs don't give a bleep what you think.
That's been established.
Brett Veach was like, is this what Anderson thinks? Fine, bleep you, Anderson. I wasn't even going to do that.
In fairness,
by the way, they traded for Kadarius Toney from the New York Giants. There you go.
A third-round pick and a sixth-round pick for clarity from Tom Pelissero. Both picks they sent are in 2023, and the third-rounder is not conditional. It is compensatory. So that's the pick that they got for Ryan Poles.
It gives them now 8 selections in the draft. They had 2/3. They have 2/4, a first and a second. So they had 10 picks. Now they've got 8.
I can build my value argument on this, and I will in a minute or at some point over the course of the show. We got that whole noon hour to just stretch our legs and talk about Kadarius Toney.
You know what?
Hey, we got something to talk about today.
Appreciate it, Brett.
No Chiefs pressers as usually happens on a Thursday. Instead, they gave us way more.
You know why we know there's no Chiefs pressers today?
Because they made a move before it.
You're damn right. You're damn right. Because this would have been an interesting question to Dave Tobe.
Sure would have.
Do you have a new punt returner?
Yes.
Hey, Dave, do you have a new punt returner in Kadarius Toney?
Hey, I'll answer that for you, actually. I'll be Dave Tobe. Go ahead and ask me the question. Get really far from the microphone so you're hard to hear.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Dave, there have been talks about Sky Moore and everything as punt returner, and obviously the Kadarius Toney move.
Yeah.
Is he going to get opportunities to be the punt returner for this team?
To return punts?
Yeah.
Tony? Yeah. Yeah, we'll work him in.
Okay.
We'll get him back there
right away, or is it something that
he was actually fielding punts on the flight here from New York?
So does he do high knees on those?
He was the elevation was an issue, but he was working on fielding him off the ground some down the aisle. His teammates were asleep.
As a punt returner, is he? Do you find him to be more reliable in catching the ball, or is he? Obviously, he's going to give you the breakaway, the play making ability, but catching the ball has been the issue we've talked about with Sky Moore.
More reliable than what we've had so far. Am I right, Jason? I'm Dave Tobe.
I would say for this guy, Jason, the sky is the limit.
Oh, but that could have been the headline of the Colts game, huh? Sky's the limit with 2 Y's would have been
the ceiling is the roof.
Would have been really cruel to Sky. I'm not trying to bully Sky Moore.
No,
I like him as a receiver.
I like
even
Sky
though
Moore.
The Chiefs might not.
I liked Sky Moore as a receiver, and that it was my first thought. And then because we're assessing it on the fly. My first thought is there already buyer's remorse for Sky Moore? Also, is this preceding the we're also going to sign Juju Smith-Schuster from the Chiefs front office view? We will also sign Juju Smith-Schuster and extend him. MVS has, 2 more years left on his deal.
After this year, yep.
After this year.
There's some team options in there, too.
Right. Sky has 3 years left after this year. And Toney has 2 years plus a 5th-year option on his contract after this year. McCole walks. Watson, whoever, fill in the blank, Ross, fill in the blank as to who one of those guys could be. This is the core of our wide receivers. We've got our big body Juju. We've got a deep threat in MVS that's also a bigger guy. We got our underneath sure-handed Sky Moore that's shifty and quick and can do some different things. And we got our man in space, ball in his hands, playmaker. He wins flag football in a phone booth guy as well. And Travis Kelce. And now we don't spend a draft pick, a first or a second round pick that we have next year on a player like this that when McCole leaves in free agency, and if Juju is out, priced by performance this year and says, sorry guys, I want $21 million per year, then in the first 3 rounds, we would have been talking wide receiver, correct?
Absolutely. So
maybe this is the preemptive strike of, cool, we don't have to look at wide receiver next year. We've got a guy in Kadarius Toney. Now we can look at other positions in this draft, even if Juju were to walk. That we would have 3 guys in our wide receiver room that we feel pretty good about.
I will let you know at least somebody in the Chiefs organization likes this trade right now because Patrick Mahomes tweeted out a GIF of The Rock making his stony face and then turning it into a smile. So, at least, Mahomes likes it.
Yeah, but who cares what Mahomes thinks? Like, I'm sick and tired of teams, just kowtowing and doing whatever the star player wants. I mean, come on, dude. It's ridiculous.
You joked earlier about them trading for Saquon Barkley. And now the Giants, with their shiny new record and all. New coaching staff. Brian Daboll showed up and said, I would rather have a draft pick than Kadarius Toney. That's the thing for me. I'll give you my number crunch and my rookie contract logic in the noon hour or next or whatever. But it's not usually a great sign whenever Mike Kafka is calling the plays in New York, and he wasn't interested in keeping him. That's sort of weird to me.
Oh, the connection of Kafka and...
Yeah. I just thought of that. I'm going to tweet it before you do.
No, I'm not going to tweet it.
Your tweets all take 9 hours to fully compose.
Yeah,
I'm shooting
it
from
took
the
me
hip
4
here.
hours 2 days ago. We'll break, but there was a thought earlier in the show that if you would have said, hey, the Chiefs traded draft picks, not the compensation that they gave up for Toney, but hey, the Chiefs traded a draft pick for the New York Giants playmaker on offense, I would say, God, I can't wait to see what Saquon Barkley looks in this offense.
You couldn't wait to see what I would have looked like at that moment. The veins in my forehead would have exploded.
You might have, but not for a 3rd and 6th. I'm saying they gave up a 6th rounder for
Saquon
cool. Barkley.
Yeah.
Like if the Giants sucked this year and they were like, we're collecting picks. This is what's interesting is that they don't suck this year and they're trading this guy. And the initial reaction I'm seeing around those that cover the NFL are saying, whew, nice win for the Giants on this one. We'll see. More Zone next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Jason loves talking. I don't know about you, but Jason is a fan of Jason's show.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, so catching up from the very long first segment we had because of the news breaking towards the end of the segment of the Chiefs trading for Kadarius Toney. Second-year player out of Florida for the New York Giants. Former first-round draft pick, 20th pick overall last year. The Chiefs giving up the third-round compensatory pick that they got for Ryan Poles being the GM for the Bears, and also a sixth-rounder. So Kadarius Toney is now a Chief. And by the way, they had 2 sixth-rounders this year. One of those was in the Tyreek Hill trade. So they had a 4th and a 6th this year coming up in the 2023 draft because of the Tyreek Hill trade. So they're giving up the Ryan Poles compensatory pick and one of the picks for Tyreek Hill for Kadarius Toney. We'll talk more about that next.
Finding great...
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
The horn just blew. Can I, does that mean I'm done?
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Beards. All right, so let's go through the trade again, because that's the big deal today. It's what's going to be talked about, and that's obvious. Third round compensatory pick, Ryan Poles pick, and a sixth rounder. Could be their sixth rounder, could be the sixth rounder from the Miami Dolphins in the Tyreek Hill trade. Okay. Kadarius Toney as a player is just somebody who's been injured. That's what it is. Anybody that is trading for him right now is betting on the film, betting on the future, the impact he can make when healthy, and a different setting. So, again, my buddy that I texted with that works in the sports industry, that is a huge New York Giants fan, watches everything, pays attention to all the New York media and everything.
Named Dryan Bayball.
it's Mike Kafka. Dang it! I did it wrong.
That one's also, you get nervous around there. Some of those, yeah. Oh, that one, no.
Did it wrong.
You got to be careful on some of those names.
Plus the joke of trying to make it like and named Mike Kafka. Oh, son of a gun! I just gave it away.
Okay, so not Brian Daboll.
Right. So I said, I responded to him. I'm like, all right, tell me about Toney. Like, what's the deal? What's the down low? Like, buddy in Nashville that texted was like, hey, tell me about Josh Gordon. I said, I hope you're not looking for a receiver to help you. And told him about, like, he's not going to get open. Don't pay attention to the one touchdown. It was created just for him as a attaboy for working and doing all that stuff, but he was never open. And the ball didn't really ever go his way, and when it did, it was a 50-50 shot of him coming down with it. Whatever. So I want to do the same thing and inquire with Kadarius Toney. So he says, these are all the texts, a lot of them that have come in. He says, this offseason, word was he was a pain in the ass. He missed meetings. He didn't work out. He was always injured. He injured his hamstring after not playing in a game, then was told that he was ready to come back. He injured his other hamstring. He said, as a player, he's had a few nice glimpses. He can catch it short, and he's very sudden. Stop on a dime type of receiver. Similar to other guys that Reed can create and make into, good receivers. He says, I think Mahomes may get him to shape up and get his bleep together. I'd love to know how real some of his injury stuff is. Then he goes on and says, the thing is, the Giants need him bad.
Yeah.
He says, I have no idea how much he's around the team at all. Says, reports were all offseason and early this offseason that he'd never play for the Giants again. Says, just got on coach's wrong side, and you're talking about offensive guys. The thing is, bleep, they need him. Then his last part, which I think is interesting, if you're a Giants fan and from that standpoint of what's the motivation for them, he says, makes me think the Giants are setting up to go after somebody like Jerry Jeudy.
Oh, interesting.
They're collecting draft picks to then go, yeah, we're turning Kadarius Toney, those draft picks, and maybe another one to give to the Broncos and go get Jerry Jeudy. That would certainly make sense from the Broncos or from the Giants standpoint.
Yeah.
Right. And from the Chiefs standpoint, the interesting part when he's saying people around New York were wondering if he'd ever play for the Giants again. And wondering and not knowing how real some of the injuries were, or I just really don't want to be here.
Hey, from the Chiefs standpoint, you hope he really hated being in that building.
Absolutely.
You hope his hamstrings are fresh off the presses.
So a couple things to deal with there. One, is he just somebody who's a bad apple that doesn't really, if those are true, if there are real questions
There's
about.
been smoke around that beyond just
sure.
the text you got now, in case anyone doesn't know that. There has been smoke about him requesting a trade this offseason and all that.
Right.
He might have done that explicitly, I don't know.
Offensive guys, and somehow Brian Daboll, Mike Kafka get there and they don't mesh. for whatever reason. And with Kadarius Toney, obviously they're meshing together as coaches. They just, whatever happens, they don't mesh. And so, was Wan'Dale Robinson a draft pick this year or last year?
I wish I had that answer for you immediately.
I apologize.
I wish I knew it for sure.
It really just popped into my head as I was saying, like, they didn't mesh for some reason, and I'm like...
Rudy would be so disappointed. Second round pick in 2022. There you go.
Yeah,
43 overall.
So if part of it was, oh, and now you're bringing in me in the second round. You're bringing in another me in Wan'Dale Robinson. So were there already issues before that, and they went ahead and said, well, cool, we've got your replacement. You can be a headache all you want. So... good, bad, right? Devil, angel type thing. Is he just somebody, if the reports are more accurate than a team going, it's all this guy's fault? Is he just somebody that's going to be a headache no matter where he goes? It's just kind of the deal and always going to have issues? Or is he a guy that was unhappy in New York with the organization, what he thought the Giants were as an offense, what he thought they could even be this year, even in year one with the new regime? You still got Danny Dimes, as your quarterback, and maybe you don't believe in him. Either way, it doesn't sound like much of a team player, more of a, hey, I want what's best for me. So two ways, either that's just who he is, or he really didn't like it there, wanted to get out. It was more surroundings that then maybe emphasize some issues that might have already been there. And in Kansas City, around the culture, with Patrick Mahomes, and a get your bleep together or get out, you can be a star receiver in this league, in this offense, that it's a, cool, now he's just going to grab an oar. I don't know. The Chiefs obviously feel like that's going to be the case. They wouldn't have done this if they didn't already have conversations with the agent and maybe even him personally, which the Giants would grant.
Absolutely, yes.
It wouldn't be collusion where the Chiefs are working behind the scenes. If the Giants did not grant that to then talk with Kadarius Toney, then what's the point of even discussing a trade with the Chiefs? Because, hey, I'd like to figure out what I'm trading for. I'd like to know what the asset brings me and some of the issues there. And the relationship with Mike Kafka, this could also be a good thing in Kafka saying, actually, he's a legitimate player. Here's why it didn't work out, guys.
If the answer is Joe Judge lost him, hey, man, Joe Judge lost me, and I wasn't playing for him. I would have pulled a hammy rather than go to practice, I think.
I do think the relationship of Kafka with Reed and Brett Veach makes it more likely that this is not the Giants trying to screw somebody over and dump their baggage and just get over on a team. Because I think they would do their due diligence and talk with Kafka and get the real story. I don't want to know from the outsiders what in the hell happened. Why is this going this way? And is it worth it for us to do this, Mike? And I don't want you to just screw us over thinking you're wearing your Giants cap and the other 31 teams are the enemy right now.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because my first thought was if he made a lot of sense in an Andy Reid style offense, that a guy who had been the quarterback's coach here the last couple of years would value him more highly as, hey, whoa, don't be trying to trade. Not that he would have veto power or anything, but just that you would maybe have seen him be featured a little more, maybe meshing better even with Kafka stylistically. I don't know. It just, whenever you get all that smoke about the disagreement with the organization as a whole, and one of your most recently graduated alumni is in charge of that offense, Daboll lets him really have the steering wheel on that offense from what we can tell. Certainly he's calling plays. So I think that's interesting. I don't think it's demonstrative of anything. Can I try to sell you on the positive spin on this?
Oh, I am all for that. You know me.
I think there's a good one. Like I'm not working devil's advocate angles here.
Good.
I think, but I say all that with my first reaction being, third feels like a lot. But it being the compensatory pick means it's going to be a little later, and it also means the Chiefs still have their original third. But Spotrac tweeted this out as Kadarius Toney's Chiefs salary. So I think this first year is also acknowledging that half the season almost is over. In 2022, it'll be a little less than $800,000, fully guaranteed. In 2023, his salary is just under $2 million, fully guaranteed.
Yeah.
In 2024, it's $2.5 million guaranteed. And then in 2025, there's the fifth-year option available that the Chiefs could pick up because now they have his rights. What the Chiefs don't have going forward is stability at wide receiver. MVS is on a 3-year deal, but each year the Chiefs have an out, basically. Juju's on a 1-year deal. Justin Watson's on a 1-year deal. Sky Moore's on a rookie contract, but what is Sky Moore right now? So what this is that's different from the idea of trading for Brandon Cooks. We talked about this morning.
Yeah.
The Chiefs have added a player at the deadline, not as a rental, not as a 35-year-old, not as a bandage. I think this is a legitimate investment in Kadarius Toney. I do not expect him to catch 10 passes against the Titans or the Jags or maybe the Chargers the week after. Kadarius Toney is an investment that I think I would have almost stomached more quickly in the offseason, frankly, because the Chiefs just made this move after they had 200-yard receiver games, not including Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce, for the first time in the Patrick Mahomes era. This is not a panic move, and that's a good thing. I say if it was in the offseason, it wouldn't have felt like a panic move at first, but I think when you zoom out a little bit, he can be their best punt returner right now as he gets into the offense. And then in 2023, I didn't mention Mecole Hardman. This is it for Mecole Hardman. The Chiefs just told us they know Mecole Hardman's going to get paid somewhere else.
Absolutely.
He should. I hope he gets his money. I like Mecole Hardman. I think he's a fun, nice dude with a really explosive skill set, but he was never Tyreek Hill, and so he never got a great shake. But Hardman's going to be somewhere else next year. Juju might be. And you know that Kadarius Toney's on this roster as long as anyone other than Sky Moore from that receiver group. If they would have traded a 3rd and a 6th round pick to trade up to the 20th overall pick to draft Kadarius Toney, and then he would have been like on IR for his entire rookie season and a half, we probably would have been pretty excited. The fact that he couldn't get any footing in New York really has me a little soured.
Yeah.
But I do think the logic of it holds. I'm worried about his injuries. I'm worried about his fit. I'm worried about what that on-ramp is going to look like. It feels a little expensive, but I think it's logical. Here's my last thing.
Okay.
Was someone else offering a 3rd? Because the Chiefs basically just gave up the last 3rd-round pick that's going to be there, right? I can't remember the exact order of how those compensation picks end up getting worked out. Was somebody offering a 4th, and they jumped up to a 3rd? But really, it's the 3rd and the 6th. Did somebody a little bit in front of the Chiefs offer a 3rd and said, we're not throwing in a 6th? Were the Chiefs negotiating against themselves? What were the Giants willing to part with? But for a player that they had basically checked out on, that's not the first-round reclamation project of Josh Jackson, DeAndre Baker, Mike Hughes, like all those corners that the Chiefs rotated through that were 1st or 2nd-round picks. Giving up a 3rd and a 6th to get one of those guys is more than just a flyer. It's too expensive to be a flyer, but it's not so expensive that I hate it.
The Chiefs are also acquiring a rapper.
Oh, really?
Young Joka.
Is that his rap name?
Is Kadarius Toney.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, I'm in. Should he honestly steal?
His latest official music video was released May 30th, 2022, called Play With Me, and I think the Chiefs are wanting that to happen.
I wish Mahomes, instead of that rock gif, would have had that video just locked and loaded, ready to go.
Yeah, his music video, Play With Me, and the Giants are like, we tried! What do you think we were wanting to do? What do you think, we got here and just decided to kick you to the curb that you weren't good enough? We tried to play with you. Nobody wants to play with me. So there you go. They're getting that as well. Young Joka and Kadarius Toney.
He and Colin Saunders both make music then. I'm sure there are probably some other guys, but I know Colin Saunders does.
Absolutely. And hopefully he and Patrick Mahomes will make music together on the field.
Beautiful music.
Hopefully they will do that. Here are some breakdowns of Kadarius Toney coming out of the draft, or coming out of Florida for the draft last year. This is from NFL Network, and this is what Lance Zierlein, who does all the breakdowns for the NFL Network. He says, overview, slot talent who competes like a player bigger than his listed size. Toney has battled injuries, which helped cap his production until the 2020 season, when it finally clicked for the entire offseason, or for the entire offense. His routes can look like one-on-one isolation basketball moves, but he has the ability to make instant cuts and break his routes off sharply. He could become a much more creative and consistent route runner in due time. He's an atypical NFL slot in some ways and is likely to do his best work in a scheme that allows him plenty of run-after-catch opportunities. He'll need more polish, but should contribute right away as a receiver and punt returner. So it goes through the weakness, or it goes through the strengths of early acceleration to uncover, 0 to 60 lightning, over-the-shoulder ball tracking talent, makes catches outside of his frame, open field vision, strong legs, wiggle a elude or break the tackle. So those are the strengths. Weaknesses, battled injuries. This is route inefficiencies. Route speeds look turned down at times, and they would like him to be turned up. Too much freestyling and wasted motion in and out of breaks. Can play with better strength against tight man at the top of the route. Might have issues handling contested catch duties underneath. More quick than speedy. Like, those are the weaknesses. The main thing there is injuries, right? The route stuff, I mean, I think Tyreek Hill was a running back punt returner that couldn't run a route.
Yes.
And he talked about a lot that the reason his targets and usage went up was his work in learning how to be a wide receiver. Chiefs have talked about that. Tyreek Hill has talked about that. I don't have a concern with the route inefficiencies and the route speeds and being consistent on some of those things. I worry more about, is he just somebody whose body cannot handle the rigors of an NFL season? Because you might be strong as an ox. Does not mean that your body can do that, can go through those things. There is a such thing as guys being injury prone. Some of it might be unlucky. Some of it might be just the fact that there is a 100% injury rate in the sport of football. Yeah. And it's how much can your body withstand and how easily will it break down versus other bodies with the same wear and tear, the same hits, the same all of that stuff. What happens when you get put in that position? I don't know, but it is a concern when it was going on at Florida, and it's already gone on in the 2 years he's been with the New York Giants. So 2017, 2019, 2020, or 2021, and 2022 were seasons impacted by injuries.
Do you want to say the name that I've been thinking about for the last 15 minutes, or do you want me to? I need to say
ahead.
it?
You say it.
You would have made that trade for Sammy Watkins if you knew exactly what Sammy Watkins was going to be.
Right.
But man, there were a lot of people that lost their patience with Sammy Watkins that seem more optimistic about Tony. And again, I have no trouble at all talking myself into the optimist's view on this one. But the upside, the optimist's angle is he really took he took every lingering injury to its absolute extent, never clicked with the coaching staff, and so maybe they weren't rushing him back and he wasn't hurrying back. And you can take all of that if you want, regardless of what that means for kind of who he is. But the other side is just he's honestly hurt a lot. He can't trust his hamstrings. And what are his 3 years of control if he's off and on the field constantly? He just has to prove that, though. I try to be really careful about not blaming players for being injured. I know there are degrees to all of it where, again, you see some guys who seem like they work back harder or faster and other guys that seem like they will take their time getting back. There are degrees to it, but at least in general, I try really hard not to make health a character trait, you know? It happens with Mondesi all the time. It's just, why is this guy not available? Maybe there's something to it. But
is Kadarius Toney Alberto Mondesi? Why did you do that?
I didn't do that. You did that. I don't want that.
Is Kadarius Toney the best wide receiver prospect the Chiefs have maybe ever seen?
That probably not true, actually.
Okay.
So I think we're actually safe on that front.
All right, great.
But
is he a 5-tool wide receiver?
That he might be, actually.
Okay, cool.
I don't know how what your 5 tools would be, but I think you probably could figure out he's returning and stuff also.
Speed, quick, catch, run after the catch.
But like
blocking.
maybe
5
there
tools.
you go. You got 5. Boom.
Nailed it.
Maybe again, like the Mondesi example is kind of a poisonous one because everyone's landed on their feelings for him already. But you know, maybe there's some toughness questions you can ask or whatever. But when a guy's ACL goes, that's not a personal problem. Mm-hmm. You know, that's horrible luck, and I'm sure that no one feels worse about it than the players who are actually injured. So I'm not making this a character choice on Tony. But if he's not physically available, the 3rd and 6th or the years of control or whatever are just, he's going to be a part-time player. I certainly hope that maybe a different training staff can help. I don't know. We never really get to talk to Rick Burkholder whenever it's not about COVID. We got to talk to him then. He had a great presser. I wish we'd hear from him more often. I wonder if a different training staff would have a different approach to a player like this that might be beneficial. I have no idea if that's on the table or not, but it's really interesting. It's not a first, and it's not Brandon Cooks. That would have, for me, been a very different reaction, because that's about this year. And I do think that Tony's long-term view with that rookie contract, that keeps you from paying twice. Remember I talk about paying twice all the time with Brian Burns or Frank Clark or whatever?
Yeah.
They're paying once. This is Kadarius Toney on most of a rookie deal with draft picks. That's okay. That's better than doing it for a veteran with a big cap hitter who's going to need an extension.
And I haven't looked at what the wide receiver market or wide receiver class looks like in the 2023 NFL draft. And maybe it's top heavy, and then that's it. Maybe it's not a very good deep wide receiver draft class. And the Chiefs went, well, McColl's going to be gone. Juju may be gone. We're going to need a wide receiver. And I don't know that we're really enamored with anybody here. But we do think that there's something there with Toney. Like, what's going on in New York? Would they be willing to trade him? Because, man, we really wanted him in that 2021 draft. Or we would have loved to draft him if it made sense in terms of where we were. Like, if somehow he was there at 58, Toney would be a Chief and not Nick Bolton. Which, by the way, I tweeted out a play from when Kadarius Toney was at Florida in how I remember Kadarius Toney, and that is him taking a bubble screen and breaking roughly 8 Missouri tackles, including the initial tackle that he broke was from Nick Bolton.
Wow.
Nick Bolton couldn't bring him down. Had him wrapped up, and he sort of just ducked and shrugged, and Bolton went flying the other way. And then Toney spun, and then went to his left, and then put his foot in the ground, and then juked to his right, showed the right leg, and then came back to his left, and then slipped through butter and went into the end zone. And it was like, oh, well, you know what? You always say you want the players to fly to the football. And Missouri had 11 hats near the football. It's just the hat with the actual football was better.
I'll tell you this, Jason. The Chiefs get to play the Mizzou defense every week. This is a great trade.
That's a really good point. Well, they're going to play 111th. Well, they won't play 111th. He'll play it in practice.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I remember of. And those are a lot of plays that got people excited as to why he was the 20th pick in the draft. And I think it is interesting when those that say, look, man, they're trading Kadarius Toney, and he's a guy they need. But it would also make sense if they trade him today so they collect the draft picks to make a move by Tuesday.
Boy, that would be fascinating. I hope that something like that happens, just because what an interesting way. Teams don't do that very often. No. Trade one receiver to another team to go get a different receiver from another at the deadline. I mean, that's
never done that.
That's much more of an NBA transaction than an NFL one.
I gladly pay you Tuesday for a Toney today. You don't get the reference.
Oh,
that's fine.
Feels like I might. What's it from?
I'm not even going to tell you.
Okay.
I don't even, it's just not even, just going to go to break.
You don't know either, then get it down.
Also, this little nugget from KC Sports Network and their draft guide last year.
Yeah.
He was only a 3-star recruit, was Kadarius Toney. Because he was recruited as a quarterback.
Oh.
A 6-foot quarterback out of high school. He threw for over 7,000 yards and 69 passing, 69 touchdowns, 31 rushing touchdowns as a prep.
Nice.
Teammates said Toney had the best arm on the Florida team. Senior Bowl director Jim Nagy mentioned Kadarius Toney can throw the ball over 70 yards. So now they have a backup quarterback.
Yeah, Justin Reid's the backup kicker. Kadarius Toney's the backup quarterback.
Do you know what Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy are thinking about right now? And these little jet sweeps and little tosses to Toney to then throw the ball.
All right,
MVS, you run deep. Toney, we're just going to give an end-around handoff. MVS, you're running deep. And Kadarius, just throw the ball as far as you can.
Beards, mark this and save it somewhere for where you'll remember where it is in 2024. But at some point as a Kansas City Chief, Kadarius Toney's going to get a little jet sort of fly sweep action, and he's going to throw the football sometime in a red uniform.
With the amount of plays and designs and creativity of different guys throwing the football near the goal line, I would guess Toney, who was a high school quarterback just as Travis Kelce was, might have a passing touchdown as well.
This could be super fun if he's on the field. That's just sort of what it is.
We'll see if he's on the field and invested.
Right.
from some reports out there about maybe not much of an investment into the programs in the offseason from the Giants.
If you can't turn that around with Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy and Patrick Mahomes, your career will end shortly thereafter. I imagine he's getting some good advice to that extent.
And I imagine the Chiefs have a buy-in from Tony, or they would not have traded for him.
I think you're right.
They've got here's the deal from Kafka. Kafka's talked to him, said, here's the deal. Kadarius Toney has talked to him with permission from the Giants. The agent, everybody involved, they're all on the same page right now, which is why they felt like it was worth it to trade for him. Hopefully it does work out. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. In the Zone.
Let's start with sports. Do you guys still have the 6 TV question?
We do have that one. That is Tua Tagovailoa had a big day on Sunday in the comeback win.
With Jason Anderson.
Tua Tagovailoa
on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Speaking of which, we will play a little sports or leisure today at 1 o'clock, presented by Johnny's Tavern. $25 will be given away to Johnny's Tavern. Sports or leisure? We'll have a lot of Kadarius Toney questions coming up in the we're gonna have an entire Kadarius Toney category. Y'all take that Kadarius Toney question? Okay, cool. Kadarius Toney, now a Chief. Where did he go to college? Well done. Nice job.
Kadarius Toney, what's the side hustle?
Kadarius Toney, can you tell me what his musical performing stage name is?
I already forgot the first part. I know the second part. We just were watching one of his music videos.
Well, he's not an old Joka.
No, that's right. He's a young Joka.
He's young Joka. That is correct. So well done. Well done. Now move on to leisure side. Name a song by Young Joka.
Yeah, that's exactly. Now in leisure, we have the Young Joka category.
So we will not have Kadarius Toney questions. My NFL trade Chiefs was going to be next week. I wish I would have done that last night for today. That would have been perfect. But instead, last night, I spent time getting questions together for the category today of Royals World Series. World Series starts tomorrow, and today is the 37-year anniversary of No Outs to Go. They won the World Series in '85 on October 27th. So the first World Series victory for the Chiefs, for the Royals, I should say. Chiefs on the mind. So we'll have Royals-specific World Series questions as a category, not Major League Baseball World Series. So Royals World Series questions. So working on that last night, not expecting young Joka to be a Chief today. But that's the case. Now, I do wonder if there's a parentheses pending physical trade.
Yeah.
I would have to imagine that would be the case, right?
Yeah.
Parentheses pending physical.
God, that'd be the only thing that is even somehow crazier. It's like, oh, and actually,
Sorry.
never mind.
We do not want that man. So there you go. Kadarius Toney has been traded to the Chiefs for a 3rd rounder and a 6th rounder. And again, some of the things we've talked about is the thought process from the Chiefs. Could be, and it would make sense if it was, Mecole Hardman is a free agent. I've said for a while that this is Mecole Hardman's last year with the Chiefs. Either he will be such a poor performer that the Chiefs will just be ready to move on, or he'll be good enough that when Christian Kirk got that money, that the Chiefs are not going to pay $20 million for Mecole Hardman per year. So this is the last year of Mecole Hardman. Juju Smith-Schuster is on a 1-year deal, so he could walk. Mm-hmm. And so your wide receiver group that would have played this year would be MVS and Sky Moore. So you would be looking for a wide receiver in the draft.
Even Justin Watson being gone, I mean, just from like a depth perspective,
right,
that does matter too.
Right. So you would be looking, and maybe they signed Juju Smith-Schuster to a long-term deal, and I'd be totally fine with that. If they did it right now and said, we're going to wrap up, Juju for the next couple of years, okay, then you're looking at Juju, MVS, and Sky. But do you need another receiver somewhere in there? I don't know.
I was going to make the joke. OBJ's still out there.
That's true. So if they were looking receiver in the draft in 2023, they're probably not going to find somebody that offers the playmaking threat and high-level potential that Kadarius Toney does in the 2nd or 3rd or 4th round next year in the draft. And if that's the case, unless you were planning on spending a 1st-round draft pick on a wide receiver, then the only thing would be, well, I guess you could have spent a 2nd-rounder on him. Okay, well, now you're essentially spending a 3rd-rounder on a wide receiver who is not someone who you're trading for and then having to give $25 million per year with.
That's exactly it.
You had the numbers earlier about what it is. Do you have them in front of you?
Still do.
Okay,
yep.
Cool.
About $800,000, about $2 million, about $2.5 million each of the next 3 years for his guaranteed salary for the Chiefs in 2022, 23, and 24. Less than $1 million, just about $2 million, just about $2.5 million.
Yeah, next year under $2 million.
That is a rookie contract paying dividends. It's what I said last segment. I've got a tweet half drafted that I'll put out during the break of again, that idea of paying twice for players. Mm-hmm. This is basically trading up in the draft to draft Kadarius Toney. It's not exactly that. You lost year one, but it's close enough for my tastes.
You're paying. Let's say they're drafting 64th in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
They're trading numbers 64, Ryan Poles, and a 6th rounder to move up to like 35 to take a receiver they like.
Right.
That wasn't going to be there in the second round.
And obviously his value in the NFL has declined since he's been in the league. He was drafted in the first and got traded for a 3rd and a 6th just now. But that is true. Rookies and draft picks are kind of like cars in that way, where the second they're off the lot, the value does begin to decline.
Full circle.
From cars!
Call back cars.
Wow, that wasn't even on purpose.
Is Kadarius Toney more of a young Lightning McQueen,
Yes.
or is he a Jackson Storm, the new age type receiver?
Well, I haven't
car?
seen the third one still, so
Well,
I
watch
don't know.
You've had 2.5 hours since we started the show to watch
No
the third.
excuse. I'll watch it
edition of
before
Cars.
I watch House of the Dragon.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I
Because
hate
you're probably more interested in watching the Cars third one than House of the Dragon.
You're
I
getting to
hate
know
you,
me pretty
Josh.
well. Yeah,
I hate you.
Sorry, Beards.
That's right.
Before season 2.
That's right. But they have. So if you draft somebody in 2023 in the 2nd round to the 7th, you've got him for 4 years under contract.
Mm-hmm.
Kadarius Toney, you will have 3 years of team control after this year. You would have 2023 when you owe him less than $2 million. 2024 you owe him 2.5, and the 5th year option if you want to use that. So they have him for 2.5 years right now. Could be 3.5 years, which is exactly the amount of time they have Sky Moore for under his rookie contract.
I think it's pretty unlikely they would pick up that 5th year option, but that is useful as a leverage play for anyone who's going, they're not going to pay him $15 million. Probably not. But that tag can be useful if you end up working out a longer term deal.
But that would be after the 2023 season.
Yes. Yes, correct.
So they would have 1.5 years to decide if they wanted to pick up the 5th year option on Kadarius Toney.
Yes.
And let's hope they do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's hope they do, because that means that means they won. Maybe not. I shouldn't say they won the draft or they won the trade. It would mean that the trade made sense for the Chiefs because he's performed. If the Giants turn the 3rd and the 6th rounder and another draft pick into Jerry Jeudy from the Broncos, and he performs at a level that they were never going to get from Kadarius Toney, then they would say that they won the trade, because they would have traded Kadarius Toney and a draft pick for Jerry Jeudy.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the Broncos were not interested in Kadarius Toney and a draft pick. Maybe they were just simply interested in 3 draft picks or something along the lines for that. So the Giants need receiver help, and they traded Kadarius Toney. Could be a bad sign, but I think the relationship with Mike Kafka at least leads me to think that they have way more information about what actually took place this offseason when the sides got sideways and there were the thoughts that he would never play for the Giants again, and not really sure how injured he was.
There was just a tweet I just saw. I think Steven retweeted it. Jeff Howe.
Steven who?
St. John.
Okay.
Sorry. First, he and I are on first name basis. I forget he makes you call him Mr. St. John.
Yeah.
Sorry, but yes, Stephen St. John of
Mr.
the Border
to me.
Patrol. I just call him SSJ. Quote tweeted Jeff Howe, or retweeted Jeff Howe, who tweeted, Kadarius Toney was one of the Giants' most talented players, but he wasn't consistently dependable. His potential with the Chiefs will be astronomical if he improves his conditioning and can stay on the field. Clean slate for Toney and the Giants' new regime. I read that one in particular. Jeff's with The Athletic, by the way. I read that one in particular because of the use of the word conditioning. I think that's interesting because it's solvable and something Andy Reid's training camps are known for.
Mm-hmm.
You will get wiped out through an Andy Reid training camp if you ask any player who's been through that. And again, if the Chiefs do believe, if it's info from him, his agent, from a little help from Kafka, whatever it may be, like Matt Miller tweeted earlier, they're betting that he'll be motivated, that Reid can scheme him up, and that Mahomes can lead him. And look, man, 2 of those 3 things I feel great about. I think Andy Reid will definitely scheme him up, and I think Patrick Mahomes seems like a really good leader for wide receivers, just from what we've seen from the outside. Is he motivated? I wonder if Kadarius Toney realized today, maybe he's thrilled to get out of New York, or maybe he's realizing, oh, if the Chiefs don't pick up my option and I'm just a quiet free agent in a couple of years, my NFL career is going to become a lot more difficult.
And a connection to the conversation we've had the last couple of days with a current wide receiver on the Chiefs. A tweet comes in from Sam at not Sam Malone. Says, does Toney return kicks and punts? I think he absolutely returns punts.
Yes.
Kicks, I don't know. They really like Pacheco in returning kicks. But I think he's a punt returner now for the Chiefs. And Sky Moore can go to, being a just receiver, whatever. The thing I would want to know about Toney is, can he catch the ball? That's it. That's all I want to know. Hey, dangerous punt returner. Dangerous for who? Because dangerous can mean both. He's dangerous because you don't even know if he catches the ball, but he's also dangerous because if he catches the ball, look out.
I am diving through the Kadarius Toney college football reference page. I will have an answer for the quality of his fumbles, the quality of Kadarius Toney's hands. Next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Dip them in once, flip them over, dip them in again. I don't know.
Oh, a double dip.
I would double dip the baby.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Josh Brisco, Beards, talking about Kadarius Toney to the Chiefs. 3rd rounder and a 6th rounder. They have traded a 3rd round comp pick and a 6th round pick. Don't know which 6th round pick it is, if it is their pick or if it is the Miami Dolphins pick that they got back in the Tyreek Hill trade. But the 3rd round compensatory pick that they traded is the trade in the Ryan Poles being a member of the Chicago Bears.
The mechanisms on that, I don't think we've reset it today. It's very strange. As somebody earlier tweeted, that it would never stop being sort of odd. But because Ryan Poles is a minority who got hired out of the Chiefs organization into an upgraded position at another organization, becoming the general manager. I can't remember what his front office role was in Kansas City verbatim.
Just say assistant GM.
But yeah, he was high up with the Chiefs. He got hired away to the Bears, and the specific recent program the NFL added is whenever you have minority candidates rise up through your organization and get better jobs elsewhere, your team is rewarded with 2 compensatory 3rd round draft picks. It's sort of strange. It's sort of convoluted. It's sort of a Rooney Rule, like doubling down. The Dolphins got extra thirds, or excuse me, the Niners got extra thirds from Mike McDaniel. It's all a little odd, but that's the mechanism behind all that.
And where that would be is that draft pick is after the free agent compensatory picks that are given out. So you've got your 3rd round that goes to, 96? Pick number 96 in the 3 rounds, 32, 64, 96.
Yeah.
So you've got your 3 rounds of picks. Then after that, 97 to 104, 105 of the big free agent signing compensatory picks that teams get. And then after that, it's the 2020 resolution on the minority candidate comp picks that come in. So you're looking at a pick somewhere between probably 102 to 108. And I don't know. I think those go in the order of what you would have finished record-wise. So if
amongst the other compensatory teams,
so if there's 4 picks and the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, they would be the 4th pick. So they would literally be the pick before the 4th round. It would be last pick of day 2 would be that pick, unless there's another comp pick that's being awarded to a team that finishes
better than the
Chiefs this year. That is my understanding of that. So they are essentially trading what typically would have been an early 4th rounder.
The last pick of day 2.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
But before the comp picks resolution that was passed, the number in the draft, the actual number of draft pick, not the round.
Right.
Like the pick number would have been a 4th rounder in a different year.
That's right. Yes.
Would have been an early day 3 pick.
Correct. Yes. This could amount to the 1st, 2nd, 3rd pick of the 4th round, depending on how you do the math.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So but we'll see what the actual number ends up being. But it's going to be in the 100s somewhere of the pick that they are giving.
Matt Derrick did the math on that and said basically, Leo Chanel was pretty much that draft slot this year. I went back even further, and Dorian O'Daniel was the other player they took right around 100. Those guys are like 100, 103, something like that. Which I find it kind of useful to put names on those because a 3rd round pick could be anybody, but Leo Chanel is Leo Chanel.
Leo Chanel was pick 103.
Okay.
And he was the Chicago Bears, Ryan Poles.
Pick 1?
Leo Chanel was the first pick of the
sense.
Ryan Poles 2 years. He was pick 103. I should have looked that up. It would have been easier than just simply saying, here's where I think it would probably fall. Well, I said, 104?
It'll be different now because, again, now the Niners are getting picks in that range, and I don't know exactly who's getting what. But
and 2022 was interesting because there were only 2 3rd-round free agent comp picks given out. Usually there's more than that.
Yeah.
I would guess usually there's more than that. But there were only 2 of those that were given out, and there were 7 minority candidate comp picks given out this last year. And as I look at it here, the 49ers picked 105, the Rams 104, and the Chiefs 103. So it's interesting because the Rams.
Is that not by record?
Yeah, the Rams beat the 49ers.
Oh, boy. Well, then I don't know. I don't know how they're doing that. Here's what I'm willing to say. Pick will be around 100 or so. Would you trade Leo Chanel? And it's funny, the 6th round has actually been so good to the Chiefs recently that it's hard to use that example. Because you might not say you'd trade Trey Smith and Leo Chanel, but you would have traded Darwin Thompson and Dorian O'Daniel. So it's kind of Rashad Fenton, you might not, but Dorian O'Daniel or Traymon Smith, you would.
Who was the wide receiver they picked in the same draft as Tyreek Hill that had like the other issues?
Oh, I don't want to look it up.
Oh,
no, it's DeMarcus Robinson.
DeMarcus Robinson was in
I was thinking of Jehu Chesson. I think was the year before that, maybe.
Chason was it Chesson? Chason?
I don't
whatever it was.
remember. I remember Jehu. I think.
Do you?
Jehu. I think. Michigan. I was plugged in for that for some reason. No, I think it was DeMarcus Robinson who had like whatever, like a weed.
No, it was somebody else. There was like laptops.
I don't know.
Let me look. Because now
laptops. Cam Newton.
That's my word association. Hey, would you like the payoff of the tease we threw to before the break?
Yes.
It's not super satisfying. Because what we found out here is that as a senior, he only returned 1 punt the years prior, each of the 2 years prior. As a senior, Kadarius Toney returned 11 punts across 11 games with the Florida Gators, averaged about 12.5 yards per return, had one that he housed for a touchdown. I have found no evidence of a fumble. I'm not getting fumble 0 on any of his stat sheets.
What about a muff, though?
I have searched. I have Googled.
Have you looked muff on Twitter?
I have not on Twitter.
What
I would
about
not.
Google?
I did Google Kadarius Toney punt fumble, Kadarius Toney fumble, and Kadarius Toney muff.
Oh, you did look up?
I absolutely did. I think it's actually the first one.
You searched for a muff.
Specifically, if Kadarius Toney
very quickly, it was Kavari Russell.
Oh, cornerback.
Oh, cornerback, yeah, from Notre Dame.
That was my bad.
The Notre Dame one, yeah. As we're looking at, would you trade this for that? The Chiefs traded their 5th and a 7th to move up to get Darian Kennard. So
there
would
you
you trade Leo Chenal and Darian Kennard for Kadarius Toney?
With all the information right now, I probably would.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, probably would.
Probably wouldn't trade Trey Smith.
You're into sports, but nothing wrong with a little leisure time. Why not both?
You're going to have a heart attack by the time you're 40 if you don't learn to relax.
It's time for sports or leisure on The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Sorry, still typing up some questions there for the sports or leisure. See, I put them all in my notes on my iPad last night as I come up with them, and then today the plan was at different breaks just transfer it over into the computer here to then send to Beards, but the breaks consisted of Kadarius Toney research, and each time we came back from break, my memory going, darn it, I forgot to transfer those questions over. So, doing that as we speak. But I've got the questions here already. It's not like I'm still coming up with them and trying to figure them out. It's just transferring over the ones from the Royals category.
If this trade would have happened yesterday, I like to think that I would have a category called Tony Def, where it's just a whole bunch of questions about like music and.
Yeah, but Tony has done it again.
Could have also done. Maybe I do one on famous Tony Award winners, all of that. But if I end up bringing that to the table, it's going to be building the plane in the sky because it's been one of those days where you get some news that's fun, and now we got a game to play.
So. Sports or leisure, 913-381-0810. Wow, full board already. 913-381-0810, $25 to Johnny's Tavern on the line. If you get a sports question and a leisure question right, you win the prize. Either of them wrong, you lose. But the question is out there available for someone to call in and request if they know the answer to it or if they've Googled. We don't give out the answer until someone answers it correctly or we have just simply run out of time to play. We do at least have the payoff of, in the hour, you will find out the question or the answer to the question. Hopefully it happens with contestants that they get that right. Let's go through the categories here. We've got 99 problems, but a touchdown isn't one because I was working mainly on Royals stuff. We've got NFL, a question from the NFL. I plan on doing a lot more than that. We've got college football. And we've got Royals World Series questions, okay? The World Series gets underway tomorrow night, and today is also the 37th anniversary of the 85 Game 7 World Series victory over the Dirty Cardinals. So...
Sorry, I'm watching Kadarius Toney highlights right now.
Are there many?
There are a few.
Are you watching them from college?
No, this is with the Giants here.
The one against the Saints?
This is against the Cowboys.
Oh, there are two. Is it the diving catch down the sideline?
There is a route that he runs.
Isn't it amazing that you say the Kadarius Toney highlights, and I'm saying the ones that are there?
I found the different one though.
Okay, good.
And I just retweeted if you want to see for yourself.
I do.
It was tweeted out by Ian Hartsitz on Twitter. I just quote tweeted it at JB Brisco.
Rappaport.
But somebody quote tweeted that here with Kadarius Toney. I don't know what the display name of this person actually is. Their display name is Gayton Trander Esch. It's a fun pun. Kadarius Toney moves like a marionette in the open field. A giant child just yanks him around the field on a set of strings. It's incredible to watch. I do not like him going to Kansas City. Was the tweet there, quote tweeting that highlight that I just saw. And I tell you what, the marionette thing is hilarious because this one route that I'm watching, I think that's Diggs that he cooks, he's just running a route and he stops and goes the other direction. And Diggs is 7, right, for Dallas?
Yes.
He just, was he 7 last year though? I can't remember. I think he might have changed his number at some point.
He was.
No, I only remember him being 7.
I feel like there was a weird thing with his number, maybe not. Regardless, it is unguardable, uncoverable, unpredictable, and if you would like to watch some highlights that make you get excited about the possibilities in this offense, this would be the one that I would start with.
Okay. There you go. What are the categories on the leisure side, Josh?
We have the final boss Marvel question. Someone can just come up, ask for the Marvel question, and then intern Dylan's category meets its end. We have the continuation of the commonly misspelled word spelling bee. We have Let's Get Greeky, a little more about Greek mythology, and then of course, the pun name game and 4th grade U.S. history.
Okay, there we go. 913-381-0810. I am ready to play. How about you, Josh. You ready to go?
Sorry, still watching Kadarius Toney highlights. Beards, ready to go?
I feel like you did that
Beards,
on
you
purpose.
good? Beards, I did.
So
I did. That one was a bit.
I was answering the phone earlier. Are you sending me
Nope,
the
I'm not.
answers? Okay, excellent.
Nope.
Full gladiator rules, man. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Old school, analog.
Yes, I'm ready.
We need a ding, because I've got a buzzer here that I could do on my own. We just need a ding, ding. I'll do that. I'll do the Denny
good.
Matthews ding,
Okay,
ding.
fantastic. Let's do
I
that.
have the sound effects still. They didn't get deleted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but if you're on the phone, though, and I point to you like, hey, he got that right.
It's good to have extra, fail-safe mechanisms.
Right. If you got it wrong and you're on the phone, I'll just do that.
What if you just hit that for both of them, and then people have to decide whether or not that was the right or the wrong one?
Well, then the people would say it was right.
Yeah, that's a good
Thank
point.
you
you
for
just did it again, and then they're wrong.
Ah, you're stupid. You got both questions wrong. The
It's
actual answer and whether or not the answer was right.
Sort of an existential approach to sports or leisure. I kind of like that.
Is it? All right, 913-381-0810. Let's go to the phone lines. We begin playing sports or leisure. $25 to Johnny's Tavern on the line, and we start with Andrew leading us off here on this Thursday edition. Andrew, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with, sir?
I'll try that final Marvel question.
All right.
Okay, we put it in the crosshairs, the end of the Marvel category. Who does Spider-Man web to a car in a parking garage when he interrogates him?
Well, it's Donald Glover is the actor.
Sure is.
So long since I've seen that one.
You getting Donald Glover as the actor makes me happy. Donald got into Spider-Man.
Yeah. Southern name is Childish Gambino.
Yes. This is the second time I've talked about Childish Gambino around here the last 3 days. That's really exciting for me personally.
Great.
Big fan. If you can even give me this guy's relationship to another main character. He's got a first name and last name, but he also has a relationship to another.
Wasn't he related to the Jamie Foxx character in one of the other Spider-Mans?
I don't believe so.
Shoot. Electro.
Oh, darn it.
It was a tough hill to climb, and I personally respected the Donald Glover Childish Gambino mention. So that's a moral victory on my book. But that question is now out there if someone else wants to close down the Marvel category.
All right, 913-381-0810. Let's go to Avery next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Avery, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with?
Isn't that Miles Morales' uncle? It's like Aaron something.
Is that one there? Do we have a question?
Or do we have something about that? He was like Prowler
Ding, Beards, thank you!
See?
Sorry, I've been making really incredible hand
ding.
motions on the Twitch for everybody to gif later, trying to get the ding ding. Yeah, of course. Aaron Davis, Miles Morales' uncle, asked and answered. And that is a series wrap on intern Dylan's Marvel questions.
There we go. Ding, ding.
Ding, ding, indeed.
Nice job, sir. All right, on to the sports side.
What
Let's
a
see.
performance.
We've got a NFL question.
Can you World Series?
Actually, we don't have an NFL question.
Oh, really?
That was answered last week as
All
well.
right, good. Get it out of here.
We do have a 99 problems but a touchdown isn't. For those just tuning in, 99 problems but a touchdown isn't one, college football, and Royals World Series. All right, you want a Royals World Series one, okay?
Kadarius Toney has tweeted, Chiefs Kingdom, baby. Red emoji, red heart, yellow heart, praying hands. Thank you, God.
How old was Kadarius Toney when the Royals won their first World Series?
Oh, no.
No. Let's see. Who is the only Royal to hit a combined 300 or better in the 2014 and 15 World Series? In the 2014 and 15 World Series, to play in both, right? To play in both, combined to hit for 300. One player did that.
I feel like Sal got the MVP in 2015. He did have one home run off of Bumgarner in 2014. Ooh, over 300. Yeah, I guess I go Salvador Perez.
It's a good way to go since he did win the MVP in 2015. He was the only player to combine to bat 300, and in the 14 and 15 World Series, he combined to bat 348. So, Yeah, I don't know. I think Hall of Famer, but that's just me. I don't know. I'm not sure. Avery, we'll put you on hold. Get you. Well, not even in your information. We'll just have you talk to Beards if you want to have a conversation with him. That's fine too. Hold on the line, Avery. 913-3810810. I was surprised by that. I didn't know there would only be one. Like the segment that the program does on Wednesdays, there can only be one. The Highlander. Like there can only be one answer to different questions they have. I didn't realize that if you said, all right, name all of the Royals in the 2014 and 15 World Series that played in both that hit over 300. There can only be one. It's Salvi.
I am surprised by that. That is, I guess, I don't know. I'm sure there's a logic to it. It's hard to be good at baseball for a long period of time in a big spot, but
I remember Kane being pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alcides always got a hit.
Yeah,
So
I never saw him not get on base.
He was at least 1 for 4 every game.
I think your stat is wrong. I think he batted 1,000.
I don't know. The numbers say this. My memory tells me something else.
Yes.
All right, let's go to Greg next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Here playing a little sports or leisure, $25 at Johnny's Tavern. Greg, what side would you like to start with, sir?
Let's start with leisure.
What category you like?
I'm sorry, can you go?
Yep.
Can you,
Yeah, absolutely.
One more time.
We have the commonly misspelled word spelling bee. We have Let's Get Greeky, Greek mythology, the pun name game, and 4th grade U.S. history.
Let's go the pun game.
Bless you. Okay, the Royals recently fired this manager after, a little bit of time here in Kansas City. They did it pretty quickly, though, reminding me of one particular racing video game franchise, not to be confused with number 38 on the Chiefs.
Can you read that one more time?
Yeah, sure. This newly fired Royals manager was dismissed pretty quickly after the year, reminding me of the racing video game franchise that is often confused with the Chiefs cornerback who wears number 38.
I've got no idea.
Talk it out.
I got it now.
Talk it out. Just click for Jason. Feel free to talk through it here. I think you got the first part, right?
Mike Matheny.
Okay, build from there. A racing video game franchise.
You know number 38 for the
and
Chiefs,
you got to know
right?
number 38 on the Chiefs.
Legarius.
Well, let's think of last name.
Sneed.
Mm-hmm. It's not. It doesn't really involve. It could involve him if you want to make it
It's
a
more
triple.
of a rhyme with Sneed.
Yeah, we talk a lot about
Right.
how much the Chiefs defense desires Sneed.
Need for speed.
Okay, bring it
Right.
together for me.
Oh, hell.
Just start with Mike, and you're going to get it.
Mike got the need for. I don't know. Mike got the need for speed.
You're very close. Full name of the Royals manager, and you're gonna walk right into it. I promise you.
Mike Matheny got the need for speed.
You don't have to got to.
No, God, it's just all combined. You're real close, and
Pun
I
name
feel like
game.
pretty much giving it to you. But
Come
just
on.
bring it all. It's just.
Mike Matheny for speed.
Yes!
That's how we
There
play
we
it.
go. There you
Right.
go. Boom. I appreciate you putting yourself out here to get one of those pun name game questions. I like to think the reward is worth the effort.
Well, the reward is halfway
I had
to.
a damn good team.
Yeah, the reward is 12.5 fake dollars right now to Johnny's Tavern.
They become real dollars.
But you have to get this one right to get the
second half.
real $25 to Johnny's Tavern. Greg, sports side, do you want a 99-yard touchdown question, a college football question, or Royals World Series question?
How about college football?
All right, college football for you. Max Duggan became just the second player over the last 15 years with a 60-yard passing touchdown and a 60-yard rushing touchdown in the first quarter of a game. Who is the other player that did this? And this player did it twice that year. So Max Duggan, not exactly the one you think of with being the amazing dual threat players that we've seen of the last 15 years, whereas this player that did this twice in the same year was exactly that.
60-yard rushing and 60-yard passing.
In the first quarter of a game, and he did it twice that year.
Kyler Murray.
Not a bad guess. Not a bad guess. It is not Kyler Murray. Greg, thank you for playing, man. I really appreciate it. 913-381-0810. Not Kyler Murray, but we have that listed now as a guess of Kyler Murray.
And we know that there was a Mike Matheny need for speed. You got the harder question right.
Well, I will tell you this. The player that has the 60-yard passing and a 60-yard rushing touchdown, there is no need for speed for him. He's got it all.
Already has it.
He's got the speed.
Lightning McQueen.
There's the need for people on defense to have the speed.
Ka-chow.
To get this guy. Oh, I like that one. Stickers. Sean next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Sean, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with?
Hey, what's up, fellas? How's it going?
It is going just fine, man. Hope you're doing well. What are you thinking to start?
Let's do 99 touchdowns.
All right, 99 touchdowns for you. Okay, so there have been 4 99-yard passing touchdowns since Mark Boerichter's 99-yarder from Trent Green. Can you name any of the 4? 99-yard receiving touchdowns, passing touchdowns, whichever way you want to phrase it, since Mark Boerichter's from Trent Green. Can you name any of the 4?
That was, what, 2004, 5, 2000?
And there hasn't been one in the last few years, I'm thinking. So
I think
there is no quarterback-wide receiver combo currently playing that connected on one of the 99-yard touchdowns.
I'm a huge Giants fan. I think I remember Eli Manning to Victor Cruz.
Yes!
Wow!
That is right! Eli Manning to Victor Cruz is the most, I believe, the most recent one. It's either that one or the Tom Brady to Wes Welker is the most recent. There's also, Sean, the well-known and highly publicized and talked about often, the Gus Frerotte to Bernard Berrien 99-yard touchdown.
Gus Frerotte to Bernard. I haven't heard either of those names in so long.
And the Jeff Garcia to Andre Davis. So I'm glad you got the Eli to Victor because I thought that was the easier of the one, but easier is such a relative term because that's not an easy question. But being a Giants fan helped. Nice job.
You got any Kadarius Toney
so what do you
inside?
think about Kadarius Toney?
Hey, since we got you here, Sean.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's more of a down the road, like you guys have been talking about today. Like it's more for the future years. I don't know what he's going to do this year, but I feel like it's just a replacement for losing somebody after this season.
Yeah.
So
is it the Giants collecting picks to go get Judy?
I would hope so. I got Judy on my fantasy.
See?
Boom! Look at this. This is a big day
Judy
for
on your
Sean.
fantasy team and your favorite team. So that'd be great. That's like me with Clyde Edwards-Helaire now saying I would like Pacheco to get more carries, even though Edwards-Hilaire's on my fantasy team. Beards, go right ahead there, sir.
Hang on, I gotta go to the.
Oh, hey, you don't have that ready at every single moment.
Nobody cares.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, Sean, on to leisure with Josh.
You got a category you like, Sean?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with spelling bee. Give me your hardest word.
Okay, I love that.
Kadarius.
I love that call. Spell charcuterie.
Oh, charcuterie.
I'm out.
I know this one a lot because I ask Renee to please order more charcuterie stuff all the time because it's meat and cheese and no carbs. It's a diabetic dream.
Okay, here I go. CHARCUTERIE.
Yeah!
What a performance from Sean! Incredible.
I don't even care that Sean got it right. I was just excited that I was spelling it right as well. Like, I'm like, yes, that's the letter, I-E. All right, Sean, you won as well. Nice job. Hey, good for
Sean,
you, Sean.
you and Jason are going to the Johnnies. You can't go alone. You have to take them with you. Congratulations.
Yes. All right.
Yeah.
I was I was sending it in my mind. I was putting it out there so you would see that. Hopefully it wasn't wrong, though. You were really sending it to my mind. That's what it was. Sean, we'll put you on hold. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Absolutely. 913-381-0810 is the phone number to play a little sports or leisure.
One of the most impressive performances I think we've had in a sports or leisure front and back. That 99 question is hard.
I think he got the most difficult question of any of the questions I have today.
And then called his shot for the hardest misspelled word that I could come up with.
Spelled charcuterie.
Dynasty.
Let's go to Matthew
Very
next up.
quickly before
Yes.
this,
right?
We've got a comment here on the YouTube page that says Matt Lane just said over on the KCSN show, Tony.
I've been trying not to spell it with an H, honestly.
Couldn't catch a punt at the Senior Bowl, dropped one after another. So there's your answer on that one.
Okay, so fine. Again, I will go back to my best punt returner is no punt returner.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I'm perfectly fine with that.
Continue on with sports release.
Sounds like I'm going to have to change my Tony. I was excited about him returning punts.
Why are you the way you are?
I just Kadarius to be different.
I hate you.
Me too.
We have a tone need to move on. Matthew, sports or leisure, what side would you like to start with, sir?
I don't know. My girlfriend thinks that she's a queen at Marvel.
No, I don't.
So, no, I'm being held quiet. Let's do Marvel.
The Marvel question. I'm sorry. The Marvel category has died. I can try to get you a bespoke one if you start with the sports side, though.
Whoa.
No, let's do the World Series.
I'll find you a Marvel question.
All right. So.
Thank you.
She sounds really excited about it, so I'm definitely comfortable with that.
The thing about your girlfriend Matthew that I love the most is her confidence in her Marvel. That's the best.
I love you both right now.
No,
You're gonna get it later.
Did you just hear that?
Hey, I'm married. Okay, I am happily married. Okay. All right, so. All right. So, let's see. Royals World Series. Which one? Do you want recent?
It doesn't matter, either 85 or recent.
Okay, good. Which year would your girlfriend like?
I don't know. She's older than me, so.
Oh my God!
Let's go!
Wow, I have a feeling that you'll be taking somebody else to Johnny soon if you get these right.
And you're correct. You're a very wise man.
All right. So, I mean, I've been married for, we've been together for 10 years. All right. So, gosh, which one do I want to go with here?
I mean,
there's so many to choose from. I came up with 20 questions, and I didn't have time to really categorize them because I was, Kadarius Tony'd throughout the show. All right. So,
I'm excited about that, by the way.
You are?
Yeah, with Tony.
Yeah, he's fun, man. He's an explosive player. He's going to be an easy guy to be excited
Okay.
about. I think that's real.
Let's go with this one. 2014 and 2015 World Series combined. So those two World Series combined, 5 different Royals stole a base. Shockingly to me, only one player had multiple. In the 2 years combined, only one player had more than one stolen base in the World Series. Who was that one player? Five players stole a base in the combined 14 World Series only. Just the 12 games?
I want to guess Gerard Dyson.
Does your girlfriend have a guess?
I didn't live here, so I wasn't a part of that.
It could have been Hosmer. I don't know.
Well,
I was guessing.
What would your girlfriend guess if she wasn't guessing Dyson or Hosmer?
Gordon. Gore.
What if she wasn't guessing?
I'm not from here. So.
I know. Well, you know what? You sound lovely, and I'm not sure what Matthew's problem is, but
really.
You have time for me to name them?
Well, Matthew, thank you for playing. I appreciate it. This was a lot of fun, and hopefully, post phone call, things go better than this question.
From the planet Zardlon, which Avenger back in the comic books?
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
No, me neither.
Matthew, Thank you for playing. We appreciate it.
You guys have a good day.
You do the same, man. All right, there is Matthew and his better half. They're participating.
Wish one of them was better at trivia.
Well, she didn't live here. That's not her fault. She was gonna.
She was ready. She was ready for the Marvel question. I googled hardest Marvel questions. Was my Google search.
Hardest Marvel question.
Yeah.
Wow.
They sounded confident, man. I don't know.
Should have just texted Dylan.
Would
have saved you time then.
That's
hardest Marvel trivia question.
Definitely true.
Compared to who? You?
I'm just Lieutenant Weinberg. Boom! I got a reference. Look at that.
A greater responsibility than you could possibly fathom. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We continue with some sports or leisure.
And with any luck, Matthew and his girlfriend will be hosting instead of us.
That's right. 913-381-810-810 is the phone number. Sports or leisure, $25 to Johnny's Tavern. More next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
All right, the categories out there. What are you thinking, sir?
The NCAA tournament.
All right, the tournament for you. There are now 10 15 seeds to upset a 2 in the tournament. There are now 3 15 seeds to make the Sweet 16. We know St. Peter's. Who are the other 2?
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, 913-381-810, playing a little sports or leisure. $25 to Johnny's Tavern on the line for those that get a sports question and a leisure question correct. To the Twitter world we go. Kadarius Toney, otherwise known as @officialC2N.
I think that O is a 0 also, so I think you might have to be careful typing that out.
Whoa, okay.
Look for the check mark. Look for the check mark.
The check mark matters. So at the official Kadarius Toney says 6 minutes ago, that joke would have been funny if I was actually hurt still. LOL. Irrelevant people don't get updates. Now, that is not quote tweeted with a joke or another tweet. I'm assuming it's a general everybody making jokes about Toney being injured and all of that stuff. He clearly sees that because he's been retweeting a lot of the highlights of himself. He's heading to the Giants. Kadarius Toney is a stud. This is the best athlete on the field with the best quarterback in the game. All of that stuff. And then tweets out, that joke would have been funny if I was actually hurt still. Irrelevant people don't get updates. The interesting part about that tweet is Kadarius Toney was a DNP all last week with a hamstring injury and did not play. He was a DNP the entire week before that with a hamstring injury and did not play. He was a DNP the week before that with a hamstring injury and did not play. He was I could go on and on. So just as my buddy who, works in the business and is a huge, huge Giants fan, has watched every Giants game and paid as much attention and around it, said a lot of things, but as far as the injury, said, I do wonder how injured he's actually been because there have been issues behind the scenes with he and the coaching staff that there is a question of how injured he actually is. And if that's the case, then there might be a fine heading the Giants' way from the NFL if they are just simply healthy scratching Kadarius Toney and listing him as a hamstring injury every day, and that's why he's not practicing.
I think there are two ways you could interpret that also. I don't know which one it is. One would be he's not in it, he's not showing up, so we're just listing him as this to just
not have to worry about
try
it.
To not have to worry about it.
Didn't see Kadarius Toney out here at practice with he's missing practice. Oh,
exactly.
Yeah, hamstring injury. That's why he wasn't out there. He was getting treatment.
Or the Giants decided somewhere along this path, he is not going to be on this team for very much longer. The last thing we want is him playing, not having his heart in it, getting hurt, maybe not being conditioned. Who's to say what that could have been the Giants protecting an asset, and it could have been Toney trying to push his way out of New York. I don't know if one's more likely than the other. Ultimately, he's gone now and says he's healthy, which should be great.
Mm-hmm. And the joke would have been funny if he were actually injured. So there you go. Let's go to Chuck next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB, a little sports or leisure, $25 to Johnny's Tavern. Chuck, go right ahead. What side do you want to start with, sir?
I'll start with leisure and the spelling, I guess, here. Give me a tough one as well.
All right. Why don't you go ahead and spell the word entrepreneur?
You said entrepreneur, like business owner entrepreneur?
Correct.
ENTREPRENEUR.
Absolutely correct. That sneaky little R in the middle, sometimes I forget it's in there.
It's true.
Entrepreneur. Well done.
Preneur. All right, sports side there, Chuck. What are you thinking?
Well, as opposed to entrepreneur. Terrible joke. I'm sorry. I'm done.
All right. No, you're welcome. You have found
99-yard touchdown.
You fit in.
Yes, you found friends in
Welcome.
the terrible joke department.
Welcome. All right, so there are 2 questions in the 99 problems, but a touchdown isn't one category. There is one specifically about a Chief that is from yesteryear, and there is another one about rushing touchdowns. Which one would you like?
Let's go rushing.
All right, there have been only 2. I didn't realize this, but there have only been 2 99-yard rushing touchdowns in NFL history. Name either player to do it.
Tony Dorsett was the first, and I believe it was Derrick Henry was the second.
Name the
I'll
third.
say Tony Dorsett. I know that's right.
Name the third player to do it. Isaiah Pacheco is what Josh was looking
That's
for.
what I was. I would have enjoyed that, but I'll take it.
Well done.
Sweeping the board.
Well done. Nice job. Tony Dorsett, 82. Derrick Henry, 2018. Chuck, we will put you on hold, get your information. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. 913-381-810. $25. Johnny's Tavern is heading Chuck's way. Now let's go to his brother, Charles. Up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Charles, what side would you like to start with, sir? Sports or leisure?
Let's do sports and do the Royals stolen base question.
All right, so I'll ask it again for those that may not have heard the question, and that is the 2014 and 15 World Series games specifically combined, 5 different Royals stole a base. Only one player had multiple stolen bases. Who was it?
Lorenzo Cain.
That's right. He got everybody a taco and then some. He had 4. Everybody else had 1.
Wow.
The 4 other players to steal a base: Gerard Dyson, Alex Gordon, Alcides Escobar, Eric Hosmer, and 4 Lorenzo Cain stolen bases. I was shocked that a Dyson or Gore or something like that didn't have like 2, right? Didn't have
Very
because
surprised.
they came in and pinch ran a couple times. So on to the leisure with Josh.
We got the spelling bee, let's get Greeky, the pun name game, and 4th grade U.S. history.
Let's do the spelling bee.
All right, the spelling bee's making winners right now. This could be huge for you. I hope you're feeling healthy though. I'd hate for you to not be able to go use your Johnny's gift cards because you're stuck at home with pneumonia.
PNEUMONIA.
That's right. Otherwise known as P pneumonia.
That's a whole different thing. That one you got to go get tested for.
Not
You
at all.
don't want that one.
Yeah,
You
just
want
like the street P-flum.
Oh man, P-flum.
P-flum and P pneumonia. Charles will put you on hold and get your information. Thank you, sir. About that.
Thank you.
Back-to-back winners from Chuck and Charles, or Charles and Chuck, whichever one. Chuck, Charles, Chuck. You know,
Never confirmed if there was any relation or not.
were they the same guy?
Wow.
Babe Ruth and the Great Bambino.
Donald Glover and Childish Gambino.
That's the same guy?
That's the same guy.
Kadarius Toney and Young Joka. Same guy.
Don't call in twice in the same show. That's no good.
Ryan next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Ryan, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with, bud?
Let's do leisure spelling bee.
Okay, all right.
Okay, all right.
Let's just keep it moving then with Paradigm.
PARADIGM.
Nice job.
Incredible.
Now spell paranickel. Leisure.
Stupid joke.
Terrible
That
joke.
one took a second too.
It was a
God,
terrible
I'm
joke.
Embarrassed.
All right, leisure. What category are you thinking, sir? I'm sorry, sports.
Royals
Sorry.
World
Yeah. Sports, Royals World Series. The 2014 and 15 or earlier? Or the 80 and 85?
14, 15.
14, 15 for you. Okay. Let's go. Game 5 of the 2015 World Series. Who had the game-winning hit?
Christian Colon.
Nice job.
Boom.
Thought that might have been easier, but some people may have remembered Lorenzo Cain's bases-clearing double that put it out of reach.
Absolutely.
But it was Colon that gave them the lead. Ryan will put you on hold, get your information. Congratulations, sir. Well done. All right.
Just loading up the booths at Johnny's.
That's what we're doing. Yep, loading up booths. Booths at Johnny's. Let's load up a break here. 913-381-0810. That's the phone number. Get back into some sports or leisure. Those on hold, you are first up. 913-381-0810. $25 at Johnny's Tavern. We're just giving it away here. We've got sports or leisure. One more segment next. More zone next. What's up?
You can do it here. That's fine.
No, we'll just come back.
Are you tell Jason not to take a break?
Yeah,
I told him at like 45.
Why don't we take an early break?
I wanted to take it now.
You just stopped Jason from
back.
taking an early break.
I know.
That's fine. We can
Who
do it.
are
take
you?
the break
Fine, then
now.
we'll take a break.
Come back, and then we can have a few more contestants.
Is there
play.
a thermometer? Can I check your temperature? Do you have a fever, Beards?
Sure, fine.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
There's one other piece of audio from today that I think is really interesting, but honestly, we went super long in the first segment, and I want to spend a second unpacking this. Is it too early to take a break here, Beards? Or
No, never too early.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Nine 810 is the phone number. 913-381-810. As we continue until 2 o'clock, so in Petra, the program comes your way at 2. No doubt, a lot of Kadarius Toney talk at 2. Kadarius Toney talk at 2 to boot. Okay.
That seemed premature, Beards.
That was my bad.
All right, that'll do it for us. The program up right now. He is so excited about Kadarius Toney, he couldn't wait to 2.
Beards is on his Nathaniel Hackett grind right now. The clock management this last segment, dude.
That's pretty good.
Horrible.
See, I was trying to get that timeout out.
Are you Russell Wilson in this scenario then?
Yes. Honestly, that's probably right. One of us has to be Russell Wilson. I don't know who the other option is.
Can I be just the defense? Because at least that's good.
No. Maybe you know what? You might be Jerry Jeudy. I don't know. Maybe
Okay.
you're currently being held back by your quarterback and your head coach. You're trying to get to New York. I don't know.
I'll be Javonte Williams. That I just want to simply be allowed to do my thing and let me go, and you just won't do it. And then when the chance to do it, then I get sick or something. I don't know.
You can be Russell Wilson, or it doesn't matter. The other one of us can be Melvin Gordon, though, because it's high usage rate, lots of carries, and then you get to the goal line, barf on your shoes.
I choose Latavius Murray.
Fair enough.
That's what I go with. Andrew, next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB to play a little sports or leisure. Andrew, what side do you want to start with, sir?
I'll do the leisure. I'll try the U.S. history.
Oh, excellent. These are pretty. You got a pretty friendly category here. What type of metal is the Statue of Liberty made out of?
Copper.
That's correct. I could hear the logic turning in there. I could hear those non-copper wheels turning.
There you go. Is that right?
Well, it's green. What metal's green? Boom.
You can just paint it, though, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Let's go to the sports side. Andrew, what category are you thinking?
I'll do the 99-yard touchdown.
Okay, there's only one left, and it's a pretty difficult one. I'll just let you know that
we'll give you a hint. We'll be friendly.
I don't even know how to give a hint for this one. But
very
here
good.
we go. Jalen Watson became the 7th player in Chiefs history to have a touchdown of 99 yards or more. Who is the only other Chiefs player with a return longer than 100 yards? So, defensive return. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Defensive.
All right,
I apologize.
Okay. All right, Beards and I thought we had it.
Yep. So we clarified this, whether it was last week or a couple of weeks ago, that this is just simply either offensive plays from scrimmage.
Okay.
Right? So either an offensive touchdown.
So this is either by definition an interception or a fumble return, correct?
That is exactly right.
Okay, one of those.
Yep.
Okay.
And as I said, it's a Chief from yesteryear. It would not be your older brother's Chiefs player. It'd probably be, well, depending on how old you are, it might be your dad's. Or it might be yours, depending on, again. It would be my dad's Chiefs. Famous horse.
Famous horse.
Secretariat?
No.
Okay. I didn't think the Chiefs had a
Popeye?
corner name.
Also no.
R.I.P. Popeye.
Oh, man. No, I mean, offensively, the only other player is now Davis, but that's the kickoff return. It's not defense.
This famous horse is actually, I don't know if you've been to Churchill Downs, but the statue in front of Churchill Downs is this horse, but it's not like Secretariat or any of the Triple Crown winners. It is a horse that won the Kentucky Derby and then was expected to be a Triple Crown threat, but broke its leg in the Preakness, ended the career, and was one of the horses that they tried to actually save instead of just euthanizing because of the stud fees and how much money was involved in this horse. But the horse is not the one that returned the touchdown.
Oh, okay. That makes
It is not that horse. It's just that horse shares the same last name with this player.
And it's not Chiefs defensive back Jim Secretariat.
It is not.
Okay.
Nor is it Jeff Affirmed.
Okay.
Is it Ronald Seattle Slew?
I was just looking at. I was looking at famous horse names. That
I figured you were. Yes,
yeah.
I figured you were.
I see Seattle Slew though. I got it now.
Yeah, nice job. It's got to be like Carl American Pharaoh.
I was trying to remember American Pharaoh.
Roger Justify. I knew it. I was
there
gonna get
it is.
Any dart? It was from the 70s. Any you want to throw a dart as to who would have the 102-yard return?
I don't know.
All right.
Slew is the only one that's come to mind. But
Who was that?
Seattle Slew. But
No, it's not. It's not Seattle Slew. Andrew, thank you for playing, man.
Hard question. Yeah, I don't know.
That's why I said it's the last
Good
one.
hint, though. Good hint.
I had 12 of these questions. It's the last one. Let's go to Lucas next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Lucas, sports or leisure? What side do you want to start with, sir?
I'll take that sports question. I got your answer for you.
Yes. What is it?
Gary Barbero.
Yep.
Wow.
Or Barbaro.
Barbaro.
So Barbaro the horse,
Okay.
spelled the same way. Barbaro the horse, 2006 Derby winner, broke its leg in the Preakness, decided that they wanted to go through surgery, and Barbaro lived for like a year longer, maybe, for another year, but ultimately did not.
I mean,
Maybe.
horses go eventually, you know.
They do, and typically they go on the track, unfortunately, when that happens. But yes, that ends the 99 problems, but a touchdown isn't one category. Josh, leisure for our final contestant in sports or leisure, one Lucas.
We got the spelling bee. Let's get Greeky in the pun name game.
So let's go with spelling bee.
Okay, spell the word. Well, this one just makes sense from the conversation we've been having. It's already on the list, so go ahead and spell the word bourbon.
Oh, nice. Speaking of the Kentucky Derby.
That's right.
Bourbon.
Nice job.
I assumed our audience would have a pretty good familiarity with the stuff, so that felt like an easy one, but the theme was there, and therefore you can take $25 to Johnny's.
You can enjoy some of that there at Johnny's.
Get a little bourbon.
Bet they can give you some right there.
Say hi. Could I please get a little B-O-U-R?
B-O-N, please. Yes, call me old-fashioned, but let's go ahead and do that. Lucas, will put you on hold. Congratulations, sir. Well done.
Thanks.
All right, that's a little sports or leisure. $25 to Johnny's Tavern, heading Lucas's way, sponsoring sports or leisure. The questions on the Royal side, I believe I got an answer to all of them. Yep, Lorenzo Cain, Christian Colon, and also Salvi were the answers. I did not get an answer to the college football question I had, and that was Max Duggan became just the second player over the last 15 years with a 60-yard passing touchdown and a 60-yard rushing touchdown in the first quarter of a game. Who's the other person to do it, and that other person did it twice that same year? That would be Lamar Jackson.
I was going to ask if he's playing tonight. Lamar Jackson is.
That would have been if somebody else asked for that question again, that would have been my next hint, and I would have been shocked when they guessed Tom Brady.
Tom Brady, baby. Wheels at Michigan.
Very weird because I said last 15 years and 60-yard touchdown runs. Any leisure questions?
I think we're good. I think we have put the Marvel questions out to pasture, and everything else has been answered.
All right, so there you go. Kadarius Toney is a Chief. Third-round compensatory pick that the Chiefs got in the Ryan Poles being named the GM of the Bears. And a sixth-round pick, not knowing if it's their sixth-rounder or the Miami Dolphins sixth-rounder they got in the trade with for Tyreek Hill. But the Chiefs have made a move before the trade deadline, which is Tuesday. And that is Kadarius Toney from the New York Giants. It's a Kansas City Chief. He has been often injured. He hasn't played in a while with a hamstring injury. But yet on Twitter, he says he's healthy. Brian Windhorst, something interesting going on. I don't know. Something, just watch out. I don't know. Maybe there's a trade to the T-Wolves with Gobert. We'll find out. Program next.